Hello and welcome along to another episode of the SportsRunDown Betalong. How are you tonight, Gary?
Yeah, great, Albie. How's things?
Yeah, good. We'll have our third member here with us very shortly. You might hear him clunking around there in the background. I'm not sure if that sound is transmitting, but Slats will be with us any moment now. So we'll just dive into the bets, Gary, while we're getting set up. You've got you got your eye on the League Two tonight, despite the heavy international schedule that we have.
Yeah, I decided it's probably best to stick with what you know. So of the international bets, I probably would have gone for Czech Republic to beat Wales. They're about 3-4, and Wales are without Gareth Bale. But as you said, I said I'd stick to what I know. Tranmere playing Colchester. We'll talk a little bit more in a few minutes about the stats in that game and a few other pieces. But my bet there is a draw on the game overall.
Yeah, I like the look of that. And you've got a slightly juicier angle for us in that game as well.
Yeah, again, kind of we'll back it up with the stats later on, but I've gone for Colchester to be leading at halftime and a draw full time. Neither of the sides really score a lot, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 0-0 draw either. But Colchester have a good kind of habit of taking the lead in games and then they kind of throw it away in the second half. Most of Tranmere's goals seem to come in the second half, so it seemed a likely fit together. I think it was around 14-1. So I've kind of just done a half stake on that to juice up the ACCA. But the main one is the draw of the match overall.
Yeah, no, I like the sound of that. I've actually gone for the Turkey game myself. So just now that we've got everything set up there, thanks for tiding us over there, guys. Welcome back to the SportsRunDown Betalong. As you can see on the screen there, we've got the all action or the live action ACCA up tonight. So that's over on sportsrundown.com. We published that earlier this morning. So even if these bets seem a little bit last minute, you can always get the bets nice and early on the website. We very much avoid after time in here. So I think we're actually okay this time, but make sure to check out sportsrundown.com. You'll get the bets much earlier than in the stream. So you'll see over there tonight, I've gone for Turkey. So I actually had two different markets in that game that I liked. I like Turkey and I like the goals. I just think that a 2-0 Turkey win wouldn't surprise me here, so I've gone with the home win. Turkey were really good at the start of the year. They beat Norway actually not in Norway. It was the reverse fixture, but it was in Spain because of COVID. Then they beat the Netherlands. Pretty convincing in both of those wins. And then they just had a car crash over the summer. They lost to Latvia. They lost to Montenegro. The Euros were an absolute washout for them. And they now find themselves behind Netherlands and Norway in the group, despite beating both of them. So they're third, and they really need to win here to have a chance at getting chance of getting back up in the group. So I was going with a home win there. It was 25-20 earlier in the week. It's into 21-20 now. So we'll see. That's the bet there.
Yeah, it looks decent.
Yeah. You could have tied us over there for another minute, Gary, please.
Yeah. Like Slats' leg of it. So Slats has gone for over 2.5 goals in the Iceland-Armenia game. So Iceland's last 10 games have averaged over 3 goals a game. And 7 of those have had over 2.5. So on that stat alone, you'd be looking to bet it. And then Armenia have had a similar record. I think they're averaging about 2.7 goals a game. So both teams averaging over 2.5. Obviously score and concede a lot. So Slats has stuck that in as a nice angle.
Yeah, we have Slats back on the show with us here now. So welcome along, Slats. If you want to add to anything Gary said there.
Yeah, I was a bit unsure of what bet to go with at first. And I was looking like the internationals, it can be hard to kind of go with any sort of form because, they only play a handful of games here and there. But I do just like the dynamic of this Iceland-Armenia game. Like, I'm not sure exactly who was expected to qualify from that group, but I would have expected Iceland to be in contention and I would have expected Armenia to be right down the bottom. And it seems kind of flipped. Like, Iceland are sitting second bottom and Armenia are second. I mentioned in the article as well that like Iceland could conceivably win their final 4 games. They don't have to play Germany again. So, it'd be tricky to get 12 points out of those 4 matches, but they could do it. And if they do that, you'd expect them to get into that playoff place. But then if they lose this game, they're 10 points behind Armenia with 3 games left. So they're mathematically out of the running. So they really have to go for it. And I think if Armenia want to give themselves a real chance, they still have to play Germany and they have to play Romania away, and Romania are only a point below them. So, if they're looking at the remaining games saying, what do we need to do here to qualify? I think they need to go for a win. And I just, backing goals in a game where both teams need to win can be a good strategy, I think. So we'll see if it pays off, but that's what I'm hoping.
Good. For anyone who's new to the show, you'll see that we have the game up on the screen there. So we will be watching that game and a few other games, all the games that we've talked about. We'll be watching them live, and we will be talking you through them as they kick off. So I think they all kick off at 7:45 tonight. So once they're in play, we'll be giving you updates on them, and we'll just be talking general betting chit chat. And as the game goes by, we'll be giving you updates on that and our views for the weekend action. So that's the format of the show. These international weekends always seem to catch me off guard. I'm never really ready for them. I don't know. Obviously, they're the same weekend every year, and I've had it for 20 years, but I still just never am ready for them when they come along.
In terms of gambling, or just in terms of having a kind of an expectation of what's going on in each game?
Yeah, both of it. Like you said there, like the Iceland one, and you just kind of, they only played a month ago, but it just feels like, I don't know, maybe I'm not ready for them, or I'm not really thinking about them. It just, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not kind of the same. I think we might get onto it later on, but I think my level of watching of international football is heavily correlated to how well Ireland are doing. And with Ireland not doing great these times, it's kind of wavered. But it was a great match last night. I don't know whether you saw France-Belgium last night. So nice, entertaining Nations League semi-final. And personally, I thought that when the Nations League concept came around, I thought it was going to be a car crash. But games like that show that it actually has value and, probably has its rightful place in the calendar now.
Yeah, I think anything that's not a friendly is better than that, because the friendlies are just awful. I do think those semi-finals, like France, Belgium, Italy, and Spain, like they are the four best countries, four best footballing teams in Europe at the minute. We've talked about it over the summer, how Belgium always let themselves down in the tournaments, but I think from these type of games where you're watching them as a neutral, they're the four teams you want in there. You don't want any kind of overachieving kind of defensive team, or a very pragmatic England or something like that. It's not as a neutral in a kind of out of the competitions. It's nice to just have a bit of entertainment. The Spain game was pretty good as well. It wasn't as entertaining, but it wasn't bad either. Spain-Italy.
That's Italy's first defeat in a record number of games, isn't it?
Yeah, it was good. It was a good while. I kind of saw it coming, to be honest. I only had a small stake on Spain, so nothing to brag about, because I don't know. I always feel like a team that's won a big trophy, and even the huge emotional reaction to Italy winning the Euros during the summer. I feel like there was no way the players were going to be up for this match, and they found themselves 2-0 down, and that's the way it went. So, but yeah, their first loss in a long time.
Yeah, when's the final on now? Is that this Sunday or?
Sunday, I think.
Yeah, it could be a good one.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch that game now myself, but I must watch the highlights before Sunday.
Yeah, they're worth watching. So we are just about to kick off now across the different games. Is there any? I know, Gary, you've got a League 2 game on tonight. Is there any international match that you've got your eye on?
I'm actually watching Czech Republic versus Wales here, and I said international football, I would have put Czech Republic in. They're without Vladimir Kufal. They've full strength side out otherwise. And Wales have they've Aaron Ramsey back, but don't know whether he lasts the first full 90 minutes. And Gareth Bale is out, so a bit depleted. I think Czech should have enough.
Yeah, like priced to 3 to 4, I did think they looked like decent value, but again, like it's hard to back a winner in some of these international games, I find. But yeah, 3 to 4 just seemed like good value for them at home to Wales, and with Wales missing Bale too.
I don't know. Is it just in my head, or do Wales's big players not seem to be available for them pretty often? I mean, in the tournaments that they qualify for, sure they're there, but in these kind of out of tournament fixtures, it always seems to be headlines about the stars not available.
I haven't tracked them that much. I know Ramsey has been kind of a little bit injury prone, And then obviously Bale kind of, I don't know where he pick and chooses his games, but you're probably right in that, they're not around as much as the other stars, but in other countries, once they get there and once they're doing as well as they have been doing in the championships, I don't think the fans will be complaining too.
No, not at all. We'll wait for the games to kick off, Gary, and then we can jump into your cheat sheet. But before we do that, a very brief, are you looking forward to the Ireland match tomorrow, or are you kind of dreading it? You looking forward to it excitedly, or?
No, I'm looking forward to it. Like, I kind of see this as a bit of a breath of fresh air for the Ireland setup. Like, I know they haven't been doing great results-wise, and performances have been mixed, but I think it was time to try something new. I said at the start of the campaign, I'd written off this campaign. Yeah. So I think, if they could get a win tomorrow, it would be brilliant. Put in a good performance and look like they're having a bit more of an attacking threat would be decent as well. But I'm willing to give Kenny time, and I'm looking forward to watching it, to be honest. Yeah.
Do you think he'll get that time, or it can be fickle enough when the results don't come? I'd like to see him get more time as well, because I don't think anyone else is going to come in and do anything better, and at least he's trying something a bit different. Like,
that's it. Like, he's not leaving like Roy Keane and Robbie Keane out of the squad to play youngsters. Like, you haven't got those players anymore. That way? Even back 10 years ago, Ireland would have had, players knocking around in the likes of Newcastle and players, teams that were kind of 10th to 15th in the Premier League, and there were fairly solid options. Robbie Brady, I know Robbie Brady's still around, but the form he's in now at the end of his career, kind of, versus what he would have been in 5-10 years ago, it's not comparable. So I think he's been dealt a bad hand in terms of so many of the older pros having to be phased out and having no other option to go with youth. But I see progress there. I said, Obamidele, the last time when he came in, made his debut against Portugal, played a stormer, and then I forget the team we were playing against in the last game, but he set up the goal in kind of the 90th minute,
Serbia,
dribbling out of defence and set up the goal. So I think there's definitely green shoots there. To answer your question, do I think he'll get time? I think the fans will give him time, because I think a lot of the fan base know what I've been saying there in terms of, the players or whatever. But there seems to be a cohort of ex-players that are against them, and they have the media's ear. So the likes of Paul McGrath, your man Stephen Elliott,
I think that's everything in the media now. It's just, you need to have a controversial opinion. No one is going to put out an article that's just like, yeah, things are grand, we'll give it another 2 years. You want you have to do something now. We need bold decisions type of, clickbait in every article. So I think
it is. Yeah, it's such an easy option to just go against the grain for the sake of doing it.
And people are saying, "Oh, get Lee Carsley in," and fair play, Lee Carsley. Was a great international for Ireland, solid midfielder. But he'd be mad to give up the job he has now with England. In the England underage group, that's how Southgate progressed into the England job. Giving up that to take over a project with Ireland that you're not going to get time with, you're kind of destined to fail for the initial period. I think you'd be mad to take it. So the options you're looking at, Sam Allardyce and stuff, and I'd rather anybody but Sam Allardyce. I'd rather one of you were managing Ireland than Sam Allardyce. It just
was that name his name actually thrown out there, or are you just kind of saying?
I'm fairly sure he's in the top. He'd be in the top 3 or 4 in the betting. I'll get the betting up here for the Ireland job.
Do you know what? It's one of those things. It nearly doesn't matter for now who the manager is. It's all the behind the scenes stuff that really needs to happen. You'll get those players in, like you said. This campaign is. After those Azerbaijan result, this campaign is over anyway. So. It's just about getting game time for young fellas. There's nothing else we can achieve between now over the next 18 months. So I think it'd be huge.
I think it was the under-17s played last night. And it was I don't like quote me on this now or come at me if it's a wrong stat, because I just saw it in passing. But I think it could have been like one of the first in, I don't know whether it's ever, but probably definitely the first in the last 10, 15 years that we've had a underage team without an English player in there. So there was no representation from an English club. I think the majority were home based. And then we had that kind of Mark Zayad or something like that, I think his name is. He's playing for Inter Milan. And he started, like, he stole the show. But like things like that, getting the underage set up right, getting them playing the right way, showing that there's a progression through the ranks. Like, how many players, I'd say you could count it on one hand, the amount of players that O'Neill, Trapattoni and Mick McCarthy brought through from the under-21s into the Ireland setup. Like, I can't think off the top of my head one player that was brought through in that time. So, like, you can't expect them suddenly to arrive at an international setup where, you know, you're going into a group with the likes of Portugal and want to contend. It just doesn't make sense.
No, not in the slightest. It doesn't.
We're getting into rant territory now, so we might move on.
Yeah. we look at the game. So the Turkey match is kicked off, and I think Turkey, I'm not sure if they've even not been in possession for any of this game so far. So starting out strong, which is kind of what I expected from them here, you know, back home after a miserable summer. So yeah, pretty happy with this one so far. I don't know if we actually got into it at the start of the show. I can't remember, but it's in the article as well on the website that this looks like a good game for goals as well. I think Turkey games are averaging 5 goals a game for the last while. They're a lot of huge high-scoring games. They concede and score plenty. So, over 2.5 years was 20 to 21 or very close to evens. It'll probably be evens in about 2 minutes. So, yeah, that's another good one to get on if anyone's watching.
Are you watching that game, LB?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there we go. Did you see that? Turkey just scored.
It was like literally just as you said, like Turkey are averaging 5 goals a game. It just came up 1-0 on Bet.
Yeah, boom. So that's actually lovely now. So for the goals and for the Turkey win, boom, 1-0 Turkey after whatever it is, 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes. Great. Go off to a flyer there. It's one of those ones that I probably lose 3-1 now that I'm going to say all this, but like, I couldn't see a scenario where they struggle against this Norway team. Haaland is out. You know, even though he was good, you know, for the last sort of 2 seasons at Dortmund, it's only really recently that he started to kind of take control of the national team, and now he's out injured. I don't see how Turkey really do much here. So, very good. Probably won't get even for over 2.5 now, but hopefully maybe there's a few dull minutes.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's still suspended, but just as I started to say it, it's gone back to normal play. I don't know if they did look at that goal, but it's sticking anyway. So. Yeah,
it's gone suspended in the Germany game as well, Germany-Romania.
It's been suspended in that for a couple of minutes, but I don't know why. And it's fair reviewing a penalty. They seem to be taking a while with whatever's going on there.
You know, when you talk about not being prepared for the internationals, and you were saying you expected Iceland to be better and all that, like in my head, you know, we did a huge amount of research for the Euros, and, you know, Germany weren't looking great. Obviously, they've changed their manager now. I think they've played maybe 3 games with the new manager, and their aggregate score is like 18-1 or 18-0. So I was looking at this like, oh, Romania are a decent price. Then you look into it, and you're like, oh my God, no, I won't go near them. So yeah, Germany are banging in goals again.
I would have thought Romania would keep things tight. Oh, it's just gone to a Romania goal kick. So VAR obviously ruled out that penalty.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I would think Romania would kind of keep things tight enough. Like I was looking at back in Germany plus goals, but then when I actually looked at it and looked at Romania's stats, I don't expect them to concede too heavily, and you know they'd be doing well to score at all. So I said I just avoid it. I think it was around evens for Germany to win with over 3.5 or Germany to win with under 3.5 goals. So that's the kind of expectation thereabout. And if I had to pick one, I'd have gone for under, but
you'd be delighted with that VAR ruling out. Just by the way, we have a few people watching us across the platform, so YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. What we do on the show is, as we kind of called out, anyone who's just joined the last minute might have missed it. We have a treble that's on tonight, so we've got Turkey to win a draw in the League 2 Tranmere Colchester game and over 2.5 goals in the Iceland game. So we back that ACCA ourselves. We advertised it on the website early in the morning. But what we're going to do now is as well, we have a tenner on it tonight for one of our viewers. So anyone who's watching us, just drop us a comment, let us know your thoughts, let us know what you're backing. And if the bet comes in, we'll pick one of the comments at random. Maybe one of the nicer or complimentary comments might have a better choice in the random selection, and we'll send that money over to someone if the bet wins. So make sure to drop us a few comments on whichever platform you're watching us on, and get engaged in the show. Let us know, like we said, what you're watching, what you're betting, and we'll start up that conversation.
We're not eligible to win, no, before I start commenting in as an alias.
Yeah. No, you're not. I was trying to think of a joke and I couldn't think of a pun, so I just kind of froze. Yeah, no. We'll exclude Sports Rundown contributors, or certainly the three of us here. If anyone else from Sports Rundown is watching, we might keep an open mind.
Yeah, and I suppose the big thing to ask anybody watching in is, what do you think of that offer? Do you think it's good? It's obviously our first week offering it, so we think it's a decent reward for people who tune in. So let us know what you think of it.
Yeah, exactly. We love any kind of feedback in the comments. So yeah, let us know what you're thinking. And we appreciate it. Take it all on board. Are there goals anywhere else? Let's look around.
Romania
too.
Romania have gone up 1-0 against Germany.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and they've actually had all of the shots so far. They've had a couple of shots even after the goal, and they have a corner here now. So they seem to be putting a bit of pressure on.
You might have seen I sent you guys during the week just a screenshot of the odds on Betfair for some of these games. Like the odds were so heavily for like the big teams this weekend: Croatia, Germany. I'm trying to remember the other ones that were there. Even North Macedonia.
Yeah, they were like 40-1 and stuff. The other teams, like
Yeah. You kind of sent it out of context. I wasn't sure if you were kind of saying,
that's a polite way for Slats to explain that he didn't text me back. There's no context.
I was going like, is he saying the underdogs are good here, or the favorites are just crap prices, or I don't know.
I think there's very few football teams.
International weeks can be like that, where you just look at it and go, there's no value. Well, I suppose you could argue there is value in backing the outsiders, but it's just kind of like very small stakes and a few outsiders. But they limit the big teams to such paltry returns that it's not worth doing it, and they're trying to tempt people in to do a tenfold ACA of 1 to 10 or 1 to 15 shots, and then somebody like Germany will let you down. That way it's.
We said it. You remember last season when we talked about the international break and we were doing our bet roulette, which I still think we should bring back. And I'd actually said to you, Slats, during the week,
I think there's only one person that's against the bet roulette, and he's also the one that's into women's football, but we won't mention who that is.
What? When have I ever been against bet roulette? I'm pretty sure that was my idea in the first place.
Changing your tune now, Slats. The women's football must be back on, is it?
It actually is on tonight, but it kicked off at about 6:00, the Dutch women's. So I didn't.
Who are the best teams in the Dutch women's football the same as in the men's football?
Well, I mean, looking at it here now, Ajax are up 1-0. Feyenoord are away to Zwolle, drawn 1-1, and PSV are beaten. I never know how to pronounce these, but Heerenveen. I don't know. PSV.
I don't even want to step in. I just want you to keep saying different versions of that name.
I have another guess there, Chad.
Yeah.
I can't even read it properly here. But anyway, PSV, I can read that. PSV women are winning 3-1. So, yeah, to answer your question.
Same teams.
Pretty much similar, yeah. Ajax and PSV are the best two, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any football game, unless it's like a friendly between, like a professional team and a local team sort of thing, where a football team should be 40-1 in a game. It just makes no sense to me.
But I mean, you'd have to agree that at some standard, like the best team in the world playing some night leagues, lads with beer bellies, like they're going to win 40 times out of 40 or whatever.
Well, that's why I excluded those like professionals against those sort of teams. But within professional sports, I don't think.
Within the same grading or whatever, within the same tournaments or leagues.
Yeah. Like if you take out like the very bottom of the UEFA nations, like Gibraltar and places like that, against the very, very top ones, like France, Belgium, Italy, I think in there it's so close in reality. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. We'll track how these outsiders go. Romania probably get their comeuppance now for having the goal to score against Germany, and we'll see how the rest of them. Everywhere else is still 0-0.
I think Montenegro were one of the big odds-on teams, and they're up 1-0 against Gibraltar. All right, like I know you were saying Gibraltar are one of those. bottom of the barrel teams. But yeah, Montenegro are like 1-40 now to win. After
That's
taking the
huge.
lead. So
I feel like Gibraltar, if they score early, they might hang on for a 1-0 or a 1-all. But once they go down early, I think that's them cooked.
Yeah, you'd have to think so. Yeah.
Does the
Iceland
Tranmere
have
game-
created a few chances here against Armenia, but nothing's really sticking. There's nothing on target yet. Like so, hopefully they'll keep at it anyway. Could do with an early goal there.
Yeah. And how's the Tranmere game looking, Gary?
Bet wise, it's looking very, very well. Entertainment wise, I'd say it's probably like just based on the stats now, because obviously I'm not watching it. It's actually a pity it's not on TV. I would have liked to watch it, to follow it with back in the draw. But based on the stats, 15 minutes and 10 seconds in, and there's been no shots on target, and there's been no shots off target.
Nice.
So when you back a draw, that's a fairly good stat that you want to see. So yeah, fairly decent start. The draw when I backed it was, I think it was 5-2, was it, when we put it up on the site?
Yeah.
And in running it's into 7-4 now. So I think the bookies are starting to cop on that this could be a slow burner, very slow burner.
I think it was 5-2 when you sent it to me, but by the time I posted the article, it had gone into 11-5. And you know, we always talk about trying to be as honest as we can, so I wouldn't want to, even though there was probably only half a day in between. But
have you never heard of a P&L, lads? No, for God's sake.
Do you know, I wasn't going to bring it up, but there was a tardiness as well that saw my bet lose a bit of its juice as well between when I sent it to the lads.
That happens nearly every week with your bet, LB. In fairness, like whatever way you pick them, they always come in before.
And I'm glad I screenshot my bet slips as well, so that there's no accusation that I just round up the odds before I send them into the group. I like the draw here at 4-1. But
but it's started. But there's been the first shot on target, but thankfully not a goal. So,
well, the other bet, Gary, a Colchester goal would do you no harm.
No, like that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't mind a Colchester goal, but it was really like a half unit, quarter unit kind of bet. Overall, I think there's enough value in the draw, and the way the Tranmere games have been going, like they're just real slow. Even the games that they've won, they've scored really late in the game. So,
did you explain that quarter unit bet before I joined the show, or have you gone through your logic behind that? Because it seems pretty sound. Like,
so we haven't gone to bring the stats up on screen and talk a bit more. So
I think now's a good time for that, actually.
Yeah, so I suppose like you're going to see the stats on screen soon, and essentially what we're doing, the recent form of both teams. So you'll see win, draw, loss. It's going from like left and right into the center. So the far left and the far right are the most recent results for either team. And then as you go into the center, they're historic results. So Tranmere are 9th and Colchester are 18th. And normally when you look at a game like with teams kind of their opposite ends of the table, really, you'd be thinking that there's great value in backing Tranmere. But when you look a bit further into the detail, you see Tranmere, like they've had a lot of trouble scoring goals this season. So over 2.5 goals in games has only been 10% of the games that they've played so far this season, where there's been over 2.5 goals, and only 10% of the games where both teams have scored as well. So they're pretty solid at the back, but they don't score many going forward. Similarly with Colchester, only 22% of their games there's been over 2.5 goals, but 44% of them both teams have scored. So again, then you can see in their last 5 they've had 2 draws, so they are drawing games more often than not. Probably the key stat, and it isn't on screen, is like that 78% of Colchester's matches have been under 2.5 goals. So we went through that already. But 71% of their goals have been scored in the first half. So where they score early, and then 90% of 33% of Tranmere's goals have been scored after the 75th minute. So Tranmere are late scorers, Colchester are early scorers. There's never really a game where it ends up like 3-3, 4-4. It's going to be a 0-0 or a 1-1. So that was kind of the logic I put into it. I think it's fairly solid. It's kind of proven out so far in the first 20 minutes, but a long way to go.
That was the sort of game, we've said it before, always suckers to just backing over on a Friday night. And you could have thrown this one in there, and then you see those stats, and it's like 10% of the games go over 2.5. You just be like, what in goodness am I doing? It's such a low number.
Yeah, I think the under 2.5 was 8-13. So like the bookies haven't missed that it's going to be a low scoring game. But I was surprised then based on that the draw was so juicy at like 5-2, and I sent it on, but 11-5, and the bookmaker of slats.
Yeah, the sheriff is back in town anyway with his.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
At least I get the bets on, LB.
Sorry, we're going to lose slats now for a second, so let me just call him out of the screen. Yeah, for anyone who's not watching, there's the dig there implies, and pretty accurately, that I've a pretty poor record of actually getting my bets on. Spent too long talking about them and then missed them. So even this morning, Gary, you published a horse racing article last night. Well, I published your horse racing article, and I actually texted the group saying I'm definitely going to back those. And then I woke up and I had a text saying that it had already won. And I was like, oh my God, missed it again. It's just so frustrating. Yeah. I like this stat attack. I'll go ahead, Slats.
For the under 2.5 in this game, 8-13. And like when you look at the stats you have there on the over 2.5, 10% for Tranmere, 22% for Colchester, it kind of makes 8-13 actually look like pretty decent value to be backing unders there.
Yeah, it does. Like the only thing that could come into the equation is like sometimes the Friday nights when their lights can inspire teams rather than your 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday. But as you said, statistically looking at it, it seems like an under 2.5 banker. So you could make that argument, but I don't think any of us three are going to come on like tipping up an 8-13 shot. It isn't any of our ways of betting, so I think the draw being a juicier angle is the way to go. But that's one for you. I know that you're kind of a follower of head-to-heads, and you like to look at that stat kind of week to week. So both of these teams played last season, and they actually played. So in the league, you kind of play each other. The teams you play at the start of the season, you play at the end of the season. So you end up having like a back-to-back game against teams that you're playing in mid-season. So they played each other twice within, I think it was like a 6-week period, and both of the games finished in a draw. So there was a 0-0 draw and a 2-2 draw. So I said, hopefully this can be 3 in a row.
But on the 0-0 side.
Yeah, on the 0-0 side.
It doesn't matter at all, but for anyone backing this under 2.5 goals.
Yeah, but we're up to like 23 minutes gone, and there's still only been one shot and one corner. So there doesn't look to be much going on. Now the negative stat for the Colchester scoring before halftime, or Colchester halftime and Tranmere full time, is that Tranmere have had 71% of the possession, so they look to be dominating from that perspective. But as you said, Liam, on many occasions, like the possession doesn't win games.
That's the most frustrating stat people don't. They had 60% possession. Again, most of it was just floating around the circle. So hopefully it lulls them into a false sense of security, and Colchester catch them out before half time, and then your high priced one starts to look good, Gary. I like those kind of bets. I know Enzo, our Serie A specialist on the site, he used to love a win from behind bet. I think back in the day it was Roma was his particular one, because they would just always concede early and then kind of wake up and go out and score 2 or 3. And you'd get, a team could be odds on to win, but like a huge price to win from behind. So,
like in this particular game, I agree with that logic when you find a team that concedes early, or if in this instance a team like Colchester who scores a lot early, it's worth doing that. But like I don't think you could back that unless it was like you need kind of 40 or 50 to 1 in this game, because Tranmere just don't score that many goals. Like their leading goal scorer this season, as we had on screen there in the stat attack, is a central defender, Peter Clark, with 2 goals, and he scored both of those goals in their win last week. So the 2-1 win at home last week. So having your central defender as your top league goal scorer is a fairly bad statistic for any team.
I've I've missed a couple of opportunities here on getting on teams to be leading at halftime. I was about to get on Croatia, and I went in and I was like, how come they're only 1.2 to be winning at halftime? And then I went back into Bet365 and the goal had just gone in. So I think I'm going to hop on North Macedonia to be leading Liechtenstein at halftime. It's not quite even money yet, so I might hold out. It's about 9-10 at the moment. But they seem to be dominating. Like, they've had 7 shots, 30 attacks to 2. Like, they've all the possession, all the attacks, all the shots. So it seems like it's only a matter of time. It's just 25 minutes gone now. I can't see Liechtenstein holding out till halftime without conceding. But I'm going to try hold out for even money on that.
I might actually trail you on that one, Flats. I like the sound of that. You've got a pretty good track record of picking first half goals and first half results. So yeah, I think I'll trail you there.
Yeah, I was only seconds away from getting on that Croatia one. They're still up 1-0 now, but yeah, hopefully this one will come good as well. Oh no, actually, do you know what? That Croatia goal was disallowed.
Oh really? Yeah, we've seen disallowed goals have cost us a lot in the past, so I don't know if I'd...
Yeah, I'm going to just stick with North Macedonia, but I do think Croatia would be a decent shout there as well. They kind of similar. They've 9 shots to 2, 21 attacks to 7, and the majority of possession. But yeah, it's punished us before where we think we've missed a bet and then there's a goal disallowed or a penalty missed, and you're kind of like, all right, let's get on it now. And it seems to kind of take the wind out of the sails of the team who, you know, thought they'd taken the lead or an opportunity to take the lead. Yeah, it's actually already gone up to even money now for North Macedonia, so I'm going to get on that.
Yeah,
I think this Wales game could have a goal fairly soon. It's been fairly end-to-end. Wales could have scored 2 so far, and the Czechs have had 2 or 3 decent chances as well. So, obviously only 20 minutes left, but it has been end-to-end, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was a goal. It's starting to get a bit feisty now as well. So there's been a bad
7-5, Gary, for a first half goal in that game.
I think that's pretty good value. About probably 2 or 3 minutes ago, there was a spell of play where the Czechs had a decent attack. It kind of got cleared away from the 18-yard box, and then Wales went on the counter-attack, 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, and he made a good save. Good save / poor finish from the attacker. I think it was Kiefer Moore. But that alone would kind of give you hope that Wales could nab one on the counter-attack. And Peter Strick had a good chance earlier on, the guy who scored from the halfway line against Scotland during the Euros. So it definitely isn't a boring game by any means. And I said I could see a goal. So,
you know what? I'm going to put a small stake on a goal in the 3 of those games: Cyprus, Wales, and Liechtenstein. So there's any goal in the first half in the 3 of those at 7-1. So
7-1.
Yeah. Most of the value coming from that Wales game at 7-5, and then the other 2 are about even. So
I wonder if you went for the 2 leads, Macedonia and Croatia, to be leading in a goal and Czech Republic game.
I'd say that's pretty big.
Yeah, probably a bit too greedy, but might be worth it.
Although, the difference in likelihood of basically is it that
that's
Croatia
kind of what I was
thinking.
Yeah. It should be, pretty similar, and given how the halves have gone to. Yep. Anyway, I'll have a look here because I'm going to try get something on that.
Yep. While you're lining that up, I'm just going to do a quick recap for the website. So anyone who's new to the show will know that we or won't know that, in fact, that we SportsRunDown.com, we've got all sorts of betting articles up there most days. Usually at this point in the show, we run through our league special. So we've got Enzo, who writes the Serie A. We've got Savage, who does La Liga. Dermot, who's on absolute fire in the Ligue 1 or Ligue 1 in France. But obviously there's no fixtures this weekend, so it's a little bit quiet in that sense on the site. We don't have any of the domestic club football articles up, but make sure to head over to sportsrundown.com. We have tonight's ACCA up there, and we've got NFL, college football, horse racing, plenty of other sports to keep you busy even when the club football isn't on. But we're checking it out. Oh yeah, we have a belated EFL announcement as well that the EFL is up there. Actually, now's a good time, Gary, if you want to run through that. So let me just get it up on the screen for our viewers. Do you want to talk us through your EFL picks this weekend?
Yeah, so my first bet is Newport against Bradford, and this is basically just there's two angles here. So I think Newport are a decent team, especially at home. They're a very good team in this division, and then I think the bookies have priced it up, not actual form. So Bradford had a good start to the season, and they they're I think they're two slots ahead of Newport. But they had a decent start to the season, and since then they've gone on, and they've only won once in their last six. And they've lost three of those. That win came last week. So they're not on a great run of form. I've wrote in the article that they're on a bit of a decline in my mind, whereas Newport have been kind of consistently strong. They played their first 4 games away from home, and then they've had a couple of tough fixtures since then. But they're I said they're a decent team at home. They have been for the last 2 or 3 seasons. I think the 7-4 on offer is a decent price for them. And I said I think the bookies are looking at this, seeing a team in 8th position and a team in I think it's the 10th or 12th that Newport are in, and they're pricing up based on that rather than kind of the recent form. Then the next game is Sutton United and Port Vale. So these are two teams that are in unbelievable form at the moment. So I think both of them have won 4 of their last 5 in the league. Port Vale had an unbelievable victory last week. They were 2-1 down going to the 90th minute and fought back and ended up winning 3-2. So a lot of Port Vale's games this season have had goals. They are good going forward and score a lot. And Sutton started off the season fairly kind of robust. They were having a lot of 0-0s, 1-0s, but they've started to get a bit more expansive recently. They won, I think it was 4-0 last week and 2-0 the week before. So I think the fact that Sutton are getting a bit more expansive, they're at home, they may be a little bit open at the back. Port Vale are a decent attack. So I've gone with both teams to score at 10-11. And then the last leg is probably a little bit of more gut feeling than anything else. So Oldham are playing away to Mansfield. So this is 22nd and 23rd in the league playing each other. So it's proper relegation dogfight. Both of their runs of form have been toxic. Mansfield started off the season. They were unbeaten after 3 games, picked up 7 points. They've only got 9 points all season, so they've only got 2 points since then in their other 8 games. So they've just been on an unbelievably bad run of form. But there has been kind of green shoots at home. Oldham are similar as if you're in 23rd in the league, there's no real positives. But the difference with Oldham is that they're kind of getting blown out of water a little bit. They don't score that many. They concede a lot. There's a lot of 3-0s, 3-1s, all that kind of score lines in their results this season. So I think that Mansfield at home, knowing that this is a 6-pointer, crowd behind them, they get an early goal. I wouldn't be able to see Oldham coming back. And if Oldham do start to kind of go all out attack, to get picked off. So as I said, the stats don't back it up because you've got 2 teams in terrible form against each other, but it's more of a gut feeling based on the fact that Mansfield were decent earlier on in the season, and the fact that the results, they've been close, they're losing by the odd goal, they're not getting kind of beaten out the gate.
So what's the bet on that one? Mansfield to win and both teams to score, or just Mansfield to win?
No, just Mansfield to win at evens. So if Newport to win at 17-10, both teams to score in Sutton, Port Vale at 10-11, and then Mansfield to win at even money. So 9-1 treble.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at the head-to-head in that Mansfield Oldham game, and if you look at the results of their last 5, 3-2, 6-1, 3-1, 3-2, 4-1. They're averaging over 5 goals a game, that head-to-head. And the last 2 times Mansfield played them at home, so May 21 and January 2020. actually October 19, Mansfield won 6-1 and 4-1. So they have, beaten them comfortably the last 2 home games against them, which I guess is a stat in favour of what you're saying. I know you're saying it's more of a gut feel play, but that definitely stands for it.
Yeah, like Mansfield would have always been like, I'm actually surprised to see them struggling so much, and they're good stats like that. So, but I just find that they're one of the consistent teams that if you were stuck for a bet, you could always back them and put them in an ACCA, and they'd always be fairly robust. Obviously, this season isn't going that well, but I think they have the squad that they could bounce back. Oldham, there's a lot of behind the scenes trouble as well. Ownership, the fans don't like, and things like that. So I just think that there's a lot of baggage that comes with Oldham that isn't there with Mansfield, and bit of luck they can get the victory. So I'm fairly confident of your 2 legs in it. That's a little bit outside of gut feeling, so you couldn't be as confident. But I think the evens is a decent price, and the 9-1 to treble looks like a bit of value.
Speaking of owners not liking fans, I think that's a good opportunity to segue into some news this week. It's probably too late to call it breaking news, but Newcastle and their new ownership. What are your thoughts on that, Gary?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm happy for Newcastle. I suppose I'm a little bit torn. Like, I'm happy for Newcastle in terms of, the fans have been through a lot. Ashley clearly wasn't going to take them anywhere, kind of taking money out of the club, even the Sports Direct branding all over the stadium and stuff. Like, he's done a lot of stuff that just, he wasn't a great owner.
The numbers of his ownership, his ownership in numbers today, and they got £0 from Sports Direct for all that sponsorship all over the stadium. Never got a penny for it.
It's ridiculous. Like, he's just absolutely milking the. Oh, sorry, did you back Wales or a goal?
Yeah.
Wales has just gone 1-0 up. Aaron Ramsey. I thought he'd actually messed it up there because he could have tapped it into an empty goal with his left foot, and he pulled it back onto his right foot. So the keeper got back, and there was 2 guys on the line. But the keeper went down kind of easily, and he just dinked it over him. So that's that bet in for you.
Armenia also went up 1-0 against Iceland.
Oh, very nice.
I'm kind of torn on Newcastle from a football fan perspective. I don't really like it. Like, I think money, like, obviously it isn't a new thing, but money is ruining the game, and especially now this mega money is just like totally ruining the game. Like, no club kind of coming up now can have a player where they kind of think they're going to be like, a long-term possibility. You're thinking like the likes of West Ham with Declan Rice, Leeds with Calvin Phillips, probably even Southampton with James Ward-Prowse and things like that. He's probably not in the same category as those other 2, but you're always just a £50 million bid upwards of losing that player. And another, these are coming in with, have they got 10 times the money that the city owners have? I
looked at the numbers today, right? So before this, the richest owners in Europe were, in reverse order, Inter Milan, $7.5 billion, PSG, $8 billion. Amazingly, Arsenal higher than PSG with $10 billion, Juve 14, Chelsea 18, City 31. And Newcastle will now have 5 times more than those teams combined. $440 billion, this Saudi.
Mental, like
they just buy any player they want. It's ridiculous. But like you said there, I actually went through I kind of started thinking to myself, like, what players will they go for? Because obviously they, the first couple of transfer seat windows, they won't be in Champions League. I presume they will be, in 18 months' time they will be. But who will they go for? And if you look at like most of the super clubs now, kind of had pretty quiet first windows. So it'll be curious to see who they go for. But you mentioned Declan Rice, and I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle went for a kind of, copy the PSG style, pick up a few kind of hearty spine of the team players in that first window, get themselves into contention for the Champions League places, and then just go mental in the second summer. So
yeah, but who is an absolute model for it is Mbappe. Out of contract next summer, like, they can just go and offer him like 200 million a year or something, like, that way. Offer him an astronomical deal, and they'll make it back on t-shirt sales or whatever. But like, I said I'm kind of split because from a football fan's perspective, I just don't like the money side. Like, I think that football is, the game obviously, and tactics and stuff like that is obviously one thing, so that's great. But then there's also like a tribalism and like a romantic element as well. I think the money just takes the romantic element out of it, and it also takes that tribalism because, like, I think the Newcastle fans, they love the initial kind of success, but then afterwards it kind of comes a little bit sour. But then on the flip side, I'm happy for Newcastle fans because they've been through so much recently. I say recently, even over the last like 25, 30 years with, like the Keegan years where they look like title contenders and losing it. They've had so much heartache and they're a big club. They deserve a trophy. So I'd love to see them winning even an FA Cup or something like that. I like same with West Ham. They're too big a club not to be winning any sort of trophy. And I'd love to see one of those teams win an FA Cup or a League Cup just to start with, so the fans are getting the success. But I would hope that the owners would do it in a Leicester way where they're building around the club and trying to get like a sustainability. They're not going to come in and like change crests and all that. Like, I look at City and I see, like, I think, this whole thing about City not being able to fill the stadium, I think they've lost the core of their support who don't feel the affinity with the club because it's changed so much. So, like, you wish all your life as a fan you're winning leagues, and then the soul of your club goes away and you're kind of, I'll find something better to do at 3 o'clock on a Saturday and then go to watch the football. So I hope that Newcastle don't go that route where they just buy it all out and then the fans become kind of detached and you get a lot of tourists there just, this is a TV show, I want to be there, all the celebs are there or whatever. It can go two ways, and if it goes that way, I think it'll sour a lot in Newcastle because I think they're,
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see Newcastle turning into one of those like trendy clubs, even if they get the big players in. I think you see it with other clubs, even when they do get big players, if they didn't already have, that kind of big city stadium or something like that, I don't see that happening with Newcastle. But then I think it's good for football because it's going to bring it to a head sooner. Like the money, we talk about City and PSG, but I mean
like salary caps and things that will bring to a head
something
sooner.
has to give. Like there's no way football can continue on with this kind of carry on where you're going to have some teams like Brentford who are probably, the size of a small school in terms of budget, and then you're going to have hundreds of billions behind another team in the league. It just won't work.
Like, I kind of agree with you, but it also feels like that's the sort of thing that is said every time, Chelsea get bought over by Abramovich, whoever else, Man City, Liverpool, any big spender comes in, big money into these clubs. That same thing is kind of said, it's coming to a head. It's going to have to.
I think we've talked about it before, Slats, in the context of rugby, that certain rules, it's always when like an outsider gets away with something that it kind of changes things up. So like, United were the first team that had the money to just buy the players in England. Then it was Chelsea, then it was PSG. Like that, they're kind of always, well, not PSG, but those other clubs always had a big kind of sway anyway. But like when Man United can't get players because Newcastle get them, or PSG lose Mbappe to Newcastle, I think those will kind of waken up some of the kind of powers that be inside the sport, because I mean the amount of money that they have, like you said, Gary, about Mbappe, like they could pay him whatever he wants and nobody else in world sport could compete with the money that Newcastle will have.
I'd say that Mbappe on most sports books was probably 1 to 5 or shorter to join Real Madrid, like pre-contract in January and sign for him next summer. And I wouldn't be so sure now. Like I think with Newcastle's money, he's an ideal opportunity for him to go and just go, listen, you'll be playing in the Premier League, give us 6 months of pretty dross football. We'll sign loads of players in the summer to play around you. We'll get into the Champions League, and then you're going to win the Champions League for the next couple of seasons. We'll give you a 5-6 year deal on, mad money a year. And he's young enough that, he can afford to take a year out, basically, out of the Champions League and stuff like that. And like I think he's absolutely a model for it. Rather than him going, like, if you're the owners, instead of signing a Declan Rice for 100 million, you definitely just give the 100 million in wages to Mbappe. It's a no-brainer. So I think he's a model for it. But it's interesting, and I said it's just good that Ashley's gone. I think, but it's good to shake up the Premier League now that you have there's no longer a big six now. It's kind of a big seven, that way. If you throw Leicester in there, it's a big 8. So you're starting to have a more competitive league, which is good because the times of United and Arsenal winning the league by 15, 20 points, or when City a couple of years ago Liverpool was at 99 points or whatever they got to. Those type of teams are going to, or seasons are going to be kind of few and far between if you've got a lot of competition. Now, that said, with Newcastle's clout now, they could probably just go and beat a new, get 100 points a season, and it becomes boring. But there is kind of something to look forward to there, where you've got a number of teams competitive. And then you look at the likes of France and PSG, or I know they didn't win it last season, but more often than not, they're going to win it. In Spain, you've got Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico that are most likely going to win it. So it becomes a more interesting league, given that you've got the money spread around so much.
Yeah, in one sense, it's more interesting. It's interesting for those teams, but I think if you're anybody else, if you're any of the other, 14 teams in the league,
I'm talking more football, like Premier League as a product, rather than English football. As I said, I think it's bad for English football as a whole. The depth, or the gap between Premiership and Championship is going to get bigger as more money comes in, because more people are going to, if the stars start coming to Newcastle, more people are going to want to watch the Premier League. The Premier League teams will start getting more money. The parachutes payments will make the teams that go down into the Championship, the Galacticos in the Championship, and harder for the teams to go through the divisions, like the likes of kind of a Brighton and things like that have done.
What's the logic behind the parachute payments for the relegated teams? I think
it's just to stop them from going bust, because you're going up, so you have to sign players, and you're signing the players in the Premier League. They're going to win on a certain budget. And then when you drop down,
the teams that came up weren't spending money for a couple of years because they knew they'd go straight back down, and they didn't want to over leverage.
Yeah.
So to kind of force them or encourage them to spend when they came up, they were promised money that if they went straight back down, or whenever they went down, they'd get, those parachute payments to just basically keep it competitive. You didn't want the same 3 teams coming up and going down, coming up and going down. So it was to kind of force a bit of spending down at the bottom stage of the bottom level of the league. Back to the game tonight. Norway have equalised in the Turkey game, so anyone who backed over 2.5 will be pretty happy with that one. A few other big teams have gone ahead. Slovenia taking lead against Malta.
Sorry to cut across you. Croatia just went up 1-0 here in the 47th minute.
Wow.
North Macedonia are leading Liechtenstein at halftime, and there was obviously 2 goals in the Czech Republic Wales game. So looks like I'm a minute or so from that treble coming in with Croatia and North Macedonia.
Did you do the treble? So did I.
I did it. Yeah.
What did you get? What price did you get?
11-1.
Sorry, say that again.
11-1.
Nice.
What you get on it?
Very nice.
7. So I just did a goal.
You just did the goal treble rather than the lead treble, yeah.
Yeah.
I did it a little after you as well, so the odds would have been a bit better again.
Savage on the bet, but I thought you'd be giving more of a shout to Armenia going winning up against Iceland.
I mentioned that a while ago, and you.
Oh, did you? Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, sorry. You were having your rant, so I just kind of.
Oh right, yeah, sorry.
No, that's good for our Friday treble, because Iceland are kind of favourites to win that game. They weren't odds-on favourites, but they were favourites to win. And like I was saying earlier, if they lose the round,
it's definitely good to have the home team fighting back anyway.
Yeah, no, that was a good goal for that. And it kind of came in. It wasn't just before halftime, but it was late enough in the half. So it was like the 35th minute. But I was kind of hoping Iceland to get one back before halftime, but still to have a full half, and with them to really have to go for it, you'd be expecting 2 second half goals there.
Yeah, so that's that. You said it at the start of the show. That's them out if they don't get back into this game. They're not going to the World Cup.
A draw, they won't mathematically be out, but they'll be as good as dead. And if they lose, they are mathematically out of it. So, yeah.
I took a disliking to Iceland. I think it was when everyone started copying that clap thing they do. I just associated it with them and kind of went off them a bit. So I kind of didn't like that team, even though they were everyone's sort of second team for a while.
I know what you mean. That when those fads take off, it can kind of put you off the originator of them, even though it wasn't their fault that the fad became this annoying thing that, you know, you get people copying, overdoing.
Yep. So yeah, it's halftime now in that game. It's halftime in the Macedonia game. Russia 1-0 up at halftime. Slovenia 1-0 up. The Netherlands only 1-0 up. They were massive underdog. Massive favourites there, massive odds on. Montenegro 2-0 up, and then they 1-1 in the Wales game. So did we talk about that one as both teams to score potential? So that's actually nice. That's pretty good there. And then a few maybe unsurprising 0-0s, Estonia, Belarus. I don't think there's too many neutrals watching that one. And that's actually the only goalless game so far, so plenty of action around the games.
I don't think you'd have gone near that game for goals either, Estonia, Belarus.
No, I looked at it. I think it was 11-8, or maybe even a little bit higher for over 2.5. So, yeah, not expected. I presume it's 0-0 in the Tranmere game, Gary.
Yeah, it was 46 minutes. I'll just go in and check, but yeah, I think it was. There was actually a few more shots towards the end of the half, but yeah, 0-0.
I don't know what stats you're using, Gary, but Bet365 shows that there hasn't been any shot on target in that game. About 10 off target.
I'm using Sky Bet.
Oh yeah,
and they have 3 shots off target and a shot for each boat on target. So yeah,
I also find the variation between the bookies odd on that.
Yeah, you think they'd all be getting them from like Opta or whoever.
Yeah, especially now that the shots on target market exists. Now, I would guess it probably doesn't exist for that game, but you know, you would still think they use consistent stats that are always correct, and there isn't that much variation. Like 0 shots on target versus 2 shots on target is a pretty sizable difference, really. Like,
yeah, 0 was very hard to have a grey area with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just by the way, I don't think we made a big enough deal of that. So
I find Sky Bet the best for those in-play stats.
Yeah, I don't really use Sky Bet much, to be honest, so I don't know how good they are. But yeah, Bet365 and Betfair are always very, very different, especially if you move away from the really top tier games. There could be wild differences. Yeah,
with Sky Bet, it actually breaks it down. So I think even for the Tranmere game tonight, they're given the total shots, like who had them, and the shots on target who had them as well. So if you're putting a player up to have a shot on target, you have to be fairly sure that they've actually had that shot on target.
Yeah. What I was going to say a moment ago was that I don't know if we made a big enough deal of the fact that we called out a 7-1 and 11-1 bet on air, and they both came in before half time. So we're actually on some unbelievable roll of calling out live bets during the show and them coming in.
Yeah, sure. It was probably because it wasn't up to the 50-1 you lads called out the other week. So,
well, in full disclosure, it was only 40, but yeah, it's
40.
Yeah. So that's, I think every show we've had back this season now, we've had a pretty big winner, either the pre-advised Action ACA or else live on air. So make sure to do trailers in those bets if you get the opportunity, because we're not just picking them out of the air. We're watching these games, we're tracking them in detail and then putting on some what look like good value calls. So I'm pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty aggro that I didn't get on. I was too busy picking out winners for you.
Yeah, oh man, I think for the last 2 seasons it was me who missed all the live air bets. So I'm quite happy that it's somebody else this season, if it had to be someone. Yeah, I'm just looking around at these games here. There's not a huge amount of second half value jumping out to me. All the teams you'd expect to be winning are winning. I could be tempted by reloading on Turkey.
What about Germany?
Well, that's actually a big exception. Yeah, that's true. I actually haven't watched. That's one thing I haven't looked at any of it, so I'm not sure. You said early on the stats were in Romania's favor. I'd be surprised if they still were.
Germany swung that back around. They've like nearly 80% of possession, and they've had, I think Romania had 4 shots before Germany had any, but now it's 9 shots to 6 for Germany. So they've had 9 shots since Germany's last 2. So they've definitely turned it around. But saying that, like Germany are 4-7 for full time, which just seems awful value, really.
That's hard to get excited about that.
No, exactly. I mean, it's probably about right, to be fair, but I certainly wouldn't be going near it.
And then I think everything else is pretty much what you'd expect. I'm sure there'll be a few people going in and putting on the kind of accolades that you described at the start of the show, Gary, the ones the bookies love, the 1-20s and multiply them all up, but I just can't see it. Maybe Iceland a goal and maybe both teams to score in that game could be a tempter, or else reload on the over 2.5. You probably get a good price there.
Yeah, I was just looking. Yeah, you could chase goals, all right. I mean, Netherlands is 1-2 for another 2 goals. I could see that happening, but again, like 1-2 isn't anything to be getting excited about.
I have to say that based on the stats, both in this game and play, and throughout the season, under half a goal in this Tranmere game is a juicy price at 5-2. Especially if you've backed the draw at 5-2, like reloading on under 5-2 or under one or under half a goal at 5-2 again, and just praying for a 0-0 seems like a decent strategy. Joe, you're obviously pot committed there, but the fact that he just had a shot on target in the first half, and we know that Tranmere and if they're going to score late on, so you could back that and even cash it out towards kind of the 70th or 80th minute. But I think this has 0-0 draw written all over it. So
I looked at their results coming into this one after you mentioned the draw, and I think it could be slightly off, but like 3 out of 9 for Tranmere and 3 out of 10 for Colchester have been 0-0 this season anyway. So like there are plenty of 0-0s in their form book anyway. So not a bad show. I mean, 5-2, you're halfway there already. I like the look of that.
Yeah, I went on to Betfair there just to see if we could decide between Sky Bet and Bet365 for the shot stats, and of course Betfair are showing 1 shot on target in the first half, so no consistency at all.
No,
but you think that Sky Bet and Betfair would be aligned because they're technically the same company, like they're all a Flutter company, so you think they'll have the same stats feeding all of the underlying systems.
Well, I'll tell you now, between Betfair and Bet365 show 7 off target for Tranmere, 3 off target for Colchester, while Betfair show 3 off target for Colchester as well, 6 off target for Tranmere and 1 on target. So they're quite similar, except Betfair saying 1 of Tranmere's 7 shots was on target, and Bet365 are saying none of Tranmere's 7 shots are on target. I don't know how that aligns with
but it's like Gary said, like if it was just a guy whose job, and we all used to work with a fella who did it for rugby, who would go to the stadium and press the buttons for the stats. But you can't believe that, in professional football leagues, there's each bookie has a guy at every game. Like there must just be some source of that information, and you'd assume they all buy the same source, especially being in the same conglomerate. It's very, very odd.
Yeah, I've seen big variation on it as well, like particularly before the shots on target market existed, because I'd often use shots and shots on target as an indicator of goals to come. And, you'd see these massive amount of shots in Bet365. It could show like 12 shots on target in the first half, and you'd go into Betfair and it'd be like 2 shots on target in the first half. Like, massive discrepancies. I think on the markets where they do, particularly the in-play shots on target, they're usually much closer. Maybe in that sense, they do use an independent statistic company
provider
to give them those stats, maybe, because wasn't there that didn't Gary, was it you or Gary chased up with Betfair about, was it
both of us,
was it Lukaku last season?
Yeah,
that shot on target, that definitely was a tame shot, in fairness, but
that's the thing. The definition of shots on target is like an intentional effort on goal directed that would have been a goal or whatever, on target, or like basically if it would have been a goal other than the keeper or a goal line defender stopping it. Yeah. And that Lukaku one would have been a goal. Like if there was nobody else there, that would have gone in. It's a shame we don't have a bigger Twitter following. We could have kind of tried to put a bit of pressure on them, but just Opta.
But wasn't their excuse with that they went off Opta for the shots on target?
Oh yeah, we went to Opta with it, and Opta just never responded.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I thought Opta would like a bit of interaction, but maybe they get an awful lot of it from angry gamblers.
But I guess that's part of why teams or why companies do that. The bookies can hold their hand up and say, "Oh, it's not us." We just take the information from Opta, and Opta can just ignore you because you've no actual contract with Opta. So, pretty much ignored there. I see we have a few comments in from a name that I can't even read, never mind pronounce. You think one of these matches is fixed? So if you want to tell us which match you think is fixed, be happy to know. Hopefully there's a bit of time to go. We can jump on it ourselves.
Maybe he's talking about that Wales game, because we were talking about first half goals and it was 0-0, and then pretty suddenly it went from 0-0 to 1-1. So I hope the suggestion is that we're behind the fixing of the Wales Czech Republic game. I'd be pretty proud if anyone thought we had that level of influence in the world. But
yeah, exactly. Gary, you've been watching that. What would you, if you were going to back a result or a goal or anything in that Wales Czech Republic game, where would you be putting the money? I'm very tempted to get involved. I just don't know where yet.
In the Czech Republic Wales game?
Yeah.
So, like, the Czechs have been better in possession, probably a bit more dominant, but they've looked a bit shaky defensively. I'd probably still go with Czechs, but I'd give it kind of 5 minutes in the second half just to see, if Wales come out a better team, kind of attacking wise, or on the ball even, they could probably nick it, because like Wales couldn't play any worse in that half, I didn't think, in terms of overall possession. But they still took the lead. So I'd give it 5 minutes, but I'd be leaning slightly towards Czech Republic at the minute.
Yeah.
Looking at just what you were saying about the comment in there. So just to remind the people watching in that we have a treble on. We've put £10 on that treble. And if it wins, whoever has what we deem to be the best comment of the night will win the money. So what is it? Was it 9 to 1 or 13 to 1? The ACA?
No, 9. 13. Yeah, you're right, Gary.
13 to 1. So it's 130 quid for the best comment if our ACA wins. And at the moment, Turkey are drawing 1-1. So we need a Turkey goal there. Tranmere and Colchester is a draw, and we have a draw there. So if that's the same, that bet's in. And then we've over 2.5 goals in the Iceland game, and there's one goal in there already. So
I was looking at our bet, and I was kind of going, it feels just about as likely to come off as it did at kickoff. So I said I'd check the odds, because that was my feeling on it. And currently it's available at 12.64 to 1, whereas we got it at 13 to 1 at kickoff.
That's so close.
Yeah, so really there is time to get on and cheer it on with us, but
yeah.
So what is that? The Iceland game is obviously drifted, and the Gary's pick has come in a bit.
I guess Turkey have drifted as well since they're drawing now. Turkey are 2 to 1.
Oh, they've gone out okay as well.
Yeah, the Iceland game is actually much the same. It's it was 5 to 6 a second ago. It's coming to 4 to 5 for over, whereas it was like 13 to 10. So it's actually come in a bit. And I guess for the reason that we were speaking about, that it was Armenia that went up 1-0 and Iceland need the win.
Yeah.
And then, Tranmere has come in as well to 7 to 5. We got it at a healthy price of 11 to 5. So that was a great price I got it at.
So just to reiterate what Gary said there, drop us a comment in YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, wherever you're watching us, and let us know if you're going to back any of these bets. If you're backing anything else, what games you're watching, what games you're looking forward to over the weekend. And like Gary said, the best comment has a chance to win our ACA if our ACA wins. So we'll come up with a better way of saying that in future weeks, but it's the first week we're trying it. So that's the plan.
Yeah, and obviously stick around to the end of the show so you know who wins, because we'll need to be able to chase you up. But gives you more of a reason to watch us.
Yeah. Exactly. Speaking of that, actually, we're gonna have our college football tickets giveaway tonight as well after the show. We'll do that on Twitter So anyone who commented on our post will be in with a shout. So if you haven't done that already, head over to sportsrundown.com on Twitter and be in with a chance to win tickets to the Utah USC game tomorrow, actually, after flying around. And we'll do that straight away after the show. And we'll give those out.
These second halves are just kicking off now. Did you end up doing any betting for some second half action?
Not yet.
No, I'm fully committed to the draw in Tranmere, so.
Do you think, Slats, Iceland have a chance to come back into this game?
I'm not watching it, and do you know it's difficult. So they've 0 shots on target and 8 shots off target, and like that could be hitting the crossbar 8 times, or you know what I mean, like shots that are coming really close into the side netting, or it could be desperate attempts from outside the box that are going closer to the corner flag than the goal. So, you know, the possession and the number of attacks and dangerous attacks is pretty similar. Armenia have had the only shot on target in the game, and it was the goal. So I don't think there's much value in them at 5-1, but you know, you wouldn't know. I'm certainly hoping for the over 2.5 that they get back into it. Or
I'm going to do a quick one here. I'm going to do Turkey to win, Iceland to come back and draw, Germany to come back and only draw, and then the Czech Republic to beat Wales, which doesn't seem that ridiculous to me, and it is 95-1. So I'm going to put a small stake on that.
That Germany to come back and draw could be the heartbreaking leg of that.
Yeah, it could be 2-1 up in 5 minutes time, and that could be over. But
yeah, well, or I was more thinking everything's kind of come in, and they're sitting 1-1 going into like the 89th minute, and just come up with the winner that some of those top teams seem to find.
It just seems to me to be too big a difference. I mean, they're 8-5 to win, 8-15 to win. I can't be. I'm just not interested in that. So let's see what happens. 95-1 is an incredible long shot. So just going to do a small speculative punt on that.
Yeah, definitely worth it. Croatia, Cyprus had so many shots coming in toward halftime.
Sorry, one of the worst own goals you'll see in the Czech Republic Wales game. So hopefully you didn't wait the 5 minutes and you got on the Czech Republic, Liam. But I think it was centre half got the ball, passed it back. Hennessy in goal for Wales, and he went to take a touch, and basically it just rolled over his foot into the corner. It's horrendous. Then he got back. He slid, got back to it, kicked the ball off the post. So like the ball was on the line, poked it off the post, and it came back and hit him and went in. It's ridiculous. It was actually Ramsey. Ramsey passed the back to him. He went, So like instead of taking a touch with his left foot, he kind of crossed his right foot over to take a touch, and it just hit off his toe and went by him. Then he got back, slid, hit it like off the post again, and it bounced back off his chest and into the goal. It's ridiculous, like.
Which way did he go? Did he hang his head, or did he start shouting at his players? That's usually
the two ways. No, he got the ball straight away and threw it out. Like, come on, lads, there's still like 42 minutes to go. Like,
let's start the half again, type of thing.
That didn't happen, lads. We'll take a draw away from home.
Those things, the manager, you'd feel sorry, Slats. You'd feel sorry for him. He gives his whole halftime team talk what the strategy is for the next 45 minutes, and then 3 minutes in, he's just a goal down, just all out the window.
Yeah, it was atrocious. But in saying that, Wales have gone on the attack now. Czech Republic look really dodgy defensively. I wouldn't be surprised if this game ended up like, 3-2 or something like that. It's quite end to end still. So
yeah,
there's definitely another goal in it anyway.
Was part of this 95-1 bet LB for Czech Republic to win? Did you get on that?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so Czech Republic to win, Germany to come back and draw, Iceland to come back and draw, and that is it.
Those come back and draw ones, you're nearly happy with them being down 1-0, going on 70, 75 minutes. Like, most of the time, these goal bets, you're hoping for some action early. But I'd be quite happy if I was you for Germany to just be pressing, but not getting that goal.
To be honest, I nearly wouldn't mind Romania going 2-0 up if there was going to be.
Yeah, true, actually.
Yeah. That's the last game I want to see anything happen in. So yeah, the draw there, the draw in Iceland, and then the Czech Republic and Turkey to find winners. And obviously, Gary was right about the Czech Republic, so that one's a step forward already. Long way to go, of course, but yep.
I might get on Memphis Depay to score a goal for Netherlands in the second half. They've been scoring it. I think they've 10 goals in their last 2 games, and I think he is close to half of those, if not half of them. But he was like 2 to 5 to score at kickoff. He's just evens now for a goal. So I put on that tenner at evens on North Macedonia to win. I might try an old evens builder and put the 20 that I returned off that on Memphis Depay to score.
So for anyone who's not familiar with the stream or slats in general, he loves a 10 quid rolling bet. So he'll put 10 on around evens. Then if it wins again, he'll roll it like that. So that's what he's referring to.
My life goal is to win a €10 to 10 grand 10 bet bonanza, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So anyone who's not too familiar with statistics, if you do an evens bet 10 times in a row, you start with a tenner, you put it on at evens, you win a tenner, you put your 20 on at evens, and do that 10 times, you'll win 10,000.
Just to run through it quickly, it goes 20, 40, 80, 160, 320 after 5 bets, and then 640, 1,250, 2,500, 5,000, 10,000 after your next 5. So
if you were under any doubt,
like a man about this a lot.
The old to the power of 2 times tables in school that nobody else ever did, but slats did.
I've made it up as high as 640. I've never got beyond that.
I don't think I've ever got beyond 3. Like I think I do. 20.
Yeah, that was what was that 6 out of 10? Like so I mean that it was a pretty good. I mean, if you look at it in terms of you have to flip a coin and get it to land on heads 10 times in a row, 6 is pretty decent. But the idea is that you're trying to find bets that are priced at evens, but you think there's value there. It shouldn't actually be an evens bet. But yeah, I mean, like if you find 10 of those,
it's the excitement factor as well. Those lads, like when you do and you get a couple of bets in, you start actively looking for the next bet rather than kind of letting that bet come to you. That looks a bit of value. Like you're like, right, I had a bet in 2 hours. Which one am I doing, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
just put on a 10-fold in the one day.
It's only a tenner original stake kind of just makes it a bit of a novelty strategy anyway. Like you're not losing big really.
Yeah.
Keep telling yourself that's
yeah, it didn't feel that way when I lost 640 on an even start, but
that's actually, you said about the excitement, Gary. That's what happened to us with the bet roulette. So again, anyone who's not familiar, I think we were doing 1 to 20 shots. So we had the three of us here, myself, Slats, and Gaz, and then we had 2 other sort of stream partners last season and their guest appearances with us this season. And between the 5 of us, we would put on a bet. So I'd put the bet on at 1 to 20. Then it would go like a game of roulette. It would go to Slats. He'd have to find a bet, and then to Gaz, and it would just go around the group like that. But it very quickly turned into just like get the bet on as fast as you can to get to pass it around. And then that's where we fell. I can't remember who messed it up, Gary. Can you remember who picked some odd Dutch football female game?
Let's just be clear. It wasn't me who lost the first one of these that we lost. I don't know if it was you, LB, but it definitely wasn't me. I think
you lost the first one with notable value to it, though.
Yeah,
it was the first of notable value. Yeah, that's true. It was the longest run we went on, and yeah,
we definitely need to bring that back. If you're in the comments, let us know. Do we need to bring bet roulette back? And what was the other thing we said earlier on, or was it just bet roulette?
No, it was bet roulette earlier. We mentioned as well.
Yeah. We might bring it back next week.
I think so.
Things mightn't be looking great for Germany, or already 1-1 in that game.
Oh, great.
So it would be ideal for Romania to take a second lead now, but yeah, you're up against it there. It's 15-4 now for the draw.
15 to 4.
15-4, yeah.
Things are taking a turn for the worst in the Tranmere game. Tranmere have gone 1-0 up, so it's a bad sign for draw and for Colchester.
Yeah. Tranmere are the late scoring team, and Colchester are the early scoring team, right, Gary?
Yeah, late scoring team and good defensively.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been no more goals in the Iceland-Armenia game either, so our treble's looking in doubt now for sure. I don't think we'd be getting it at 12 or 13 to 1 anymore.
I was going to check the odds in that. Over 2.5 is now gone out to 31 to 20. So yeah, it's starting to drift. Surely though, at some point Iceland have to just throw caution to the wind, and like they'll get caught on the counter even if they.
Yeah, well, I mean, both teams have had a few more shots now in the last 10 minutes or so, but for the bet and for Iceland themselves, they need to start going for taking risks.
Yeah,
I'll cheer them on if they go 1-1. I'll cheer them on to get the winner.
But Iceland, I'd like to see Armenia get into a qualify for the.
Well, I would. Yeah, the only thing is, like, there's some pretty decent teams in second place in the other groups, so it'd be nice for Armenia to get into the playoffs, but it'd be hard to see them making it
go much further
competition. Yeah.
Wales are actually dominating in this game now, so I said there's plenty more goals in this Wales Czech game, I think.
Yeah, this Iceland game is end to end here, so actually maybe a goal there and a goal in the Wales game could be a bet in a few. If there's maybe nothing in the next 5 or 10 minutes, could be a bit of drift and a good price.
I would say another goal in Croatia, Cyprus as well. Cyprus have had a few shots themselves, and like Croatia have had 17 shots with 6 on target. They don't seem to be slowing down. It's only 1-4 now for another goal there, but yeah, if we give it a few minutes, we could get a decent kind of safe enough treble.
Yeah, it's 1-3 in the Iceland game. Sorry, that's what I meant. It's actually suspended in the Cyprus game. I'm not sure what's going on. Oh no, it's back now. Apologies.
Myself. Oh yeah.
What was the game Carrie said? Or Wales? Let me check the price in that one.
Yeah, it's just been fairly end to end. And I said Wales have come out, they're a better team in the second half, even though they did concede that calamitous goal.
Calamitous, nice. It's 5-2 nearly for the 3 of those games to have a goal, so that's not too bad actually.
Yeah, that's pretty decent combined, isn't it?
Yeah. Going to give it 5 minutes, and hopefully it starts pushing 2-1. I might actually get on that. Iceland have a nice dangerous attack here, so hopefully they can score. Actually, hopefully they don't score in the next 2 minutes. I'll get on.
Slovakia are away to Russia and they're down 1-0. It'll put Russia 7 points clear with 3 games left each, I think. So Slovakia probably have to, get at least a draw there, and they've had 18 shots with 2 on target going in 60 minutes. They've had much more shots, much more attacks, nearly 75% of possession. Just another shot on target there now. I was thinking of just adding in back in another goal there, but she said nearly back to draw there at 3-1. Another goal is 2-5.
Some difference in that goal being for Slovakia or not being, or just being a goal in general. Wales game got suspended, Gary.
It's not a goal anyway. Ball's a halfway line, so.
No, not to worry.
Don't worry, I'll keep you up to date.
Yeah.
It's mad, like when we looked at the stat corner, and we actually didn't call it out, but the corners in the Tranmere Colchester game. So both teams averaged over 10 corners. And I was thinking about calling it out as a bet. And then after about half an hour when I looked, there had only been 1 corner. So I was like, oh, thank God I didn't call it out for being a bet. But since then, there's been another 8, so there's 9 corners now. 8 of them for Tranmere, 1 for Colchester. There's still a half an hour to go. But I think in the Tranmere games, they're averaging before this game it was 11.4. I think that was on our stats. So it might be an angle to look out for going forward, because if you're backing them over 11 corners, you get a decent price. Like that'd be kind of 6-4 most bookies, I'd say. So it might be one worth looking out for in Tranmere games going forward.
I like the sound of that. Very dangerous attack here for somebody in the Russian game. Looking at the stats of getting that red dot. No, cleared. I'm going to do a quick fourfold. So a single goal in all those games. Russia, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Wales, Cyprus, Croatia, Iceland, Armenia. It is 3-1. Or a little bit inside 3-1 for that. So I'm going to do that.
I'm going to tail you on that.
Suspended in the Cyprus game. Give it a moment. Hopefully it's not a goal.
Looks okay to me.
Yeah, so I'll be getting on that in a moment. Anyway, back, Gary, for Colchester.
Not from the stats. So, like, the stats is given that they've only had one shot all game. So it was one shot on target, 40% possession, one corner. It doesn't look like they're behind in everything you look at, like attacks, dangerous attacks, every statistic kind of looking at here, they're behind. So the best we can hope for is that they nick kind of a late equalizer, but it doesn't look likely. I think we did need Colchester to get that one goal lead in the first half, and then have Tranmere kind of going gung-ho in the second to get the bet up. But
it'll be what's the fourth game in that bet? Sorry, I'm just trying to get on this. Iceland, Armenia, Russia, Slovakia, Cyprus, Croatia,
Czech Republic, Wales.
So another goal in those 4 games.
You're probably going to get 4-1, I'd say, at least.
It's it's just shy of 4-1, 4.83.
You want to go on quick because Czech's nearly scored there, so and run a decent attack here.
Yeah, confirm bet, and I'm on 10 on to win 48. That's not bad.
That would have been a sickener because there was a striker coming in at the back post, and now in fairness, he's about 2 yards away, but he was sliding in. So, like, Joe, if he had a made connection, but it was a definite goal, it would have been a sick, because it was right when you were saying, "What's that bet?" and kind of reaffirming what it was, like, Joe, nothing like that, a kick in the teeth.
Be raging, all right.
I know we ran past this earlier, Gary. We talked about the Newcastle buyout and the 3 other ones, City, PSG, and Chelsea. But I was wondering, could you name a player who each of those clubs bought in their first season after their expensive buyouts? There's one that was bought by 2 of them.
The same player, like, or names any player? So I know City, City bought Robinho. I know that, like.
Yeah, they bought Robinho. That was the big name one.
Yeah.
Who else did they get that first summer? And it was also somebody that Chelsea bought in their first summer under Abramovich.
Jeez. De Bruyne?
No. English.
Jeez, I can't remember now.
I think there's a West Ham connection. I've got to double check that. Yeah.
Jeez, I don't know. Go on.
Wayne Bridge.
Oh, Wayne Bridge, yeah.
Bought by both of them. Yeah. Fun fact. Yeah. Iceland still doing everything they can here, but scoring. So.
No, but it is interesting. Like on that topic, like, do you think you can go from second in the Premier League, or second bottom of the Premier League, with, like, who would Newcastle's star player be? St. Maximum being the star player, to being, like, to bringing in a load of stars, or do you have to progress with, a good few mediocre players, not mediocre, but like second tier players before you get the top tier players?
See, I think the fact that it's not a main city, like Chelsea were able to buy they bought a full starting 11 and a load of subs. Like, they just bought a whole new squad that first summer. They got the money and they just spent hundreds of millions straight away and brought in everyone they could. Makaleli, I wrote them all down. I couldn't even remember Crespo, Damien Duff, Mutu, Cole, Brown.
Aaron Robin was it?
Yeah. No, he wasn't the first one. He came the second summer, but everybody else came that first summer. Like PSG, they only signed 4 players in that first summer, all kind of like defensive defenders and just kind of a very solid approach. And then City were kind of, like I said, they kind of went for a spine of the team. So I don't know if Newcastle will be like, is it realistic that they'll get 10 superstars that summer? I suppose if they're offering freaking 500 grand a week, they probably will. But
yeah, I definitely play for them for that anyway.
I think I could manage to quit the day job for 500 grand a week. All right, yeah.
I know. I nearly fly from London to Newcastle every morning and back just to get that. Like, sure. Just have a little private jet out or a helicopter to bring you up. Like.
We've got a comment in from Dermot who says SWP, and I don't know if I'm too young or too old. I don't know what that actually means, but Sean Wright Phillips, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
If I'm getting at that, LB, now you should be ashamed of yourself.
I have to look up that first Manchester City summer in the history books. I'm a good bit younger than you lot now, despite the starting to recede up here.
I just wish you hadn't got that and called out something else like.
Google what does SWP stand for? Southwest Projection, whatever that means. Yeah, God, this Iceland match is just getting really frustrating now. Nothing happening. I think that is going to be the killer of that 4-legged one. Slovenia had gone 3-0 up. We didn't obviously look at goals there.
4-0 now, actually, for Slovenia.
Gone 4. And the live score is actually really slow at updating now. It's another one of those sites that they just rebranded the whole site and it's just gotten really crap. Normally didn't kick on.
Like, everybody was happy with the old functionality where it didn't look pretty, but it was in. Wales have just scored Daniel James to make it 2-2. So
nice.
That goal
nice for the goal, but not great for my Czech Republic bet. You call that one again, Gary? Another good shout on the in-plane.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'd keep backing another goal in this game because it just seems so open. Neither team seems to be able to defend. And Wales have been a lot better in the second half than they were in the first half. They've also brought on Harry Wilson, who has assisted that goal. Put a lovely little pass through from midfield. I'm surprised he was.
It's still suspended now, Gary. Are they looking at that? Is there any chance that's going to?
It hasn't shown anything dodgy here. Like, there may be a question over offside, but it's not showing like a VAR thing. And he didn't. I've seen it 3 or 4 times just in normal time. He didn't look offside, but I haven't seen it straight down the line. So to answer your question, no, I don't think so. But they haven't really.
No, I mean, sometimes it can just be the bookies kind of rejigging their odds, deciding. Oh no, it's saying video ref in progress. All right.
Yeah, so they've panned onto the ref now. Yeah, he's given the goal. Yeah, he's given the goal. It didn't show any replays of what they were checking, but he's given it anyway.
Yeah, a lot of the other games seem to have gone quiet. The Netherlands game has gone real quiet. I think they had like 14 shots in the first half and none so far in the second half. They seem to just be sitting on that 1-0 lead, which I suppose away from home isn't is reasonable to do, but it is Latvia. Like you'd kind of expect them to.
Apologies to any Latvians who might be watching us there. This lad was a little bit too enthusiastic with his Latvia.
I'm being realistic. Like, I mean,
yeah. No, I don't think they're. That's the thing with these international games. Like, like I said, 40-1 for a team, and then they lose 1-0. It's kind of. Actually, I should start checking what they are +2 and things like that, because surely it's still a good price when they're 40s in the straight up win.
Yeah, true.
Anybody know what price Wales are, guys?
I'll tell you now.
What is it? The odds Wales are 4-1.
4-1. Yeah.
I don't think that is the worst bet here because they've scored. Ramsey has just had another chance there, where the keeper has made a decent save, and they kind of look on top here. The Czechs haven't really come out in the second half. I don't think so. The 4-1 is a bit of value there.
I like it. The Turkey game is all Norway, actually. So I don't know where the second half has come from the Norwegians, but they're dominating there.
Have Colchester been getting any chances since going down 1-0? It's not looking like it from what I can see.
They've had one shot off target from the stats, but I need a lot more than that. But again, like when it gets to the last 10 minutes, they've nothing to lose. So, I mean, they might sneak one. I think that's the best hope is that they draw. It's still 1-0 down, 10 minutes to go, and they just decided to go all out attack. Like,
yeah. Jeez, we still need a goal in 3 out of 4 of these games. LB, did you? I don't know if you got on that one as well, Gary, but you could probably get on the treble now, and it'll be better value than the quadruple we got on.
Oh, it definitely would be. Once the Iceland game gone out to another goal there, it is 9-10, and I would not be backing that.
Gone 2-0 up.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
It's such an it still probably was a good bet, Gary, and a good, well priced for what it was, but it's such an unenjoyable thing to cheer on under the freaking bet draws.
No, like I mean, as I said, the logic in it was sound, so you can't knock that. But it's just, and at half time, as I said, like I thought it was a certainty at half time. But it's mad how Tranmere are just such a second half team.
Yeah,
like I think I'm definitely gonna, the next time they play, especially when they're playing at home, I'm gonna do the draw halftime, Tranmere full time, instead of getting adventurous with Colchester. So I got a bit of adventurous trying to do that, but I think with this,
I love having a team. Like we said it on a couple of the streams before when we even had Waterford and they won, having been down at halftime. Like you find a second half team, even if it's only for a couple of months, you can do quite well out of it. Just wait to let them either not score or even go 1-0 down in the first half. Get great prices.
Speaking of second, did anybody get on Wales at 4-1?
No.
No.
So like they had a shot there from the edge of the box. Like they've been all over Czech Republic here. There's only one winner of this game in my mind.
Are you not getting on yourself, Gary?
I'm going to try and get on in a second, but Harry Wilson took a shot and got deflected. But one of those where the ball just looped up in the air and it looked like it was going into the top corner, but it actually just went wide. So they've got a corner now from it.
They've actually come in. They're 10-3 Wales. So obviously, a few other people have seen you call them out, Gary, and decided to hop on because they're coming in price.
Gary moving the market again.
That's it. Well, 2 from 2 in this game so far, so
yeah,
not too shoddy.
This Iceland match now is just annoying me.
It could be getting to the point where Iceland have just nearly given up already because
I hope they get a hiding for their troubles. A humiliating 3-0 loss at home to Armenia.
Ideal. I mean, I'm not too bothered about the over 2.5 now anyway because I don't see Colchester coming back, and even Turkey aren't looking that like winning. But for our active of a goal in those 4 games, we could do it going either way.
Yeah, I think an Iceland goal might liven things up a bit. I think an Armenia goal would be the end of that game.
Yeah, you'd have to think so. Yeah. And then Croatia have kind of gone a bit quiet as well. A few more chances there, but still no goal. They could still, there's plenty of time there, and they just had another shot on target now, so I'm not too worried about that one. Oh, Iceland just scored, just as we
were. Whoa. 1-1, there we go. So the 2.5 is back on there now, big all of a sudden.
Yeah, I had mentioned both teams to score in the article as well. Oh, shit, it's suspended again, so it might be disallowed.
You mentioned Armenia to win. You mentioned Iceland to win. You mentioned 2.5. Covering the bases. No.
Cover everything.
Is it the odds have just come back in Iceland are 20-1 to win? So I presume that's been... Oh, no, now it's 1-2 to draw. I'd say that's going to stand. And Armenia are making a substitution.
It looks like they're given on Sky Bet anyway.
Yeah. Armenia are making a substitution. I don't think they can do that until the VAR thing is done. So
Yeah, it's showing a replay now, which I think, again, they only show when the goal is given.
Yeah, I think that's in. The draw, yeah.
Did you see the goal there? I don't know. Or, Bet365 showed the lines moving, and the lines are moving down, and then they just went all the way. One line went all the way from one box to the other box, and it seemed to go directly.
You know what that was? That was a fella checking the phone. He's like, the wife was texting him, and he was checking the phone, and then he just looks up, and he has to send a player flying down the pitch to get the goal. Yeah. And Iceland now on another dangerous attack. I think that could actually reignite them now because they obviously have the quality. Iceland, they've just been playing so poorly. But Armenia on the attack here. No, I didn't actually see the goal, by the way. I flicked over to the Wales game. Their Wales are at 5-1 now. I'm quite tempted to get
Slovakia
on that.
are still pushing here. They've had a few more shots in the last few minutes. They're still down 1-0, and we need at least a goal there. I also backed Slovakia for the draw at 3-1. But they're definitely dominating and definitely pressing, and they do need a result here. If they lose, I think they're pretty much out of it.
Gone suspended in the Wales game. Lost goal kick.
Yeah, no, there was a bit of a flurry around the Wales box there. So Czechs had their first kind of dominant piece of play, but they had like 3 or 4 shots that were just blocked. It was a decent. Wales are back on the attack now.
Wales to win, Slovakia to equalise, and Iceland to win at 115-1. Might throw a tenner on that.
Oh,
God, that looks so doable the way these games are going.
Yeah, I'm actually doing that now before I.
Yeah, you'll only regret not getting on that if you sit on it.
As well, it's obviously mental accounting, but I'm happy to throw a few tenors around after winning that money earlier on the first half bet. So
yeah, I'm kind of the same. Yeah, I've thrown a few on here. They're still all live. The Dutch game isn't looking great. I have to pay to score there, but the rest are still going pretty well.
Yeah. What about the Turkey game? I've kind of lost track of that one. Let me see how that's going. Flick back over. Of all the scorelines, I didn't expect in this one. It was 1-1. Although the weather seems to be absolutely bucketing down in Istanbul, so anyone who read our how the weather impacts betting article on SportsRunDown.com might have told me to stay away from that game when they saw the weather. I actually didn't see the weather now, I must be honest. Or just would have assumed it was nice weather in Turkey at this time of year.
Yeah, just on that article, I know because into a bit of the NFL, so we might discuss it later on. But like last week in Buffalo, the winds were really high and it was lashing rain. So I thought of that article, I never even thought of looking at it. I put in up Emmanuel Sanders to score anytime. But then because it was so wet and windy, they never threw the ball like all game. So, the bet was really never going to come in. Like,
yeah, it's one worth reading, but it's nearly worth writing down in your notes to just keep an eye on it to remind yourself every week. So anyone who hasn't seen it on SportsRunDown.com, we've got a betting guide. So it starts out with some very introductory kind of concepts around gambling. Anyone who's new to it, what they need to look out for, and Gaz wrote a lot of them with a lot of good tips in there as well for people new to the form. So we've added a few more kind of intermediate and advanced articles now, and we're going to keep adding to them over the course of the year. But we've got one from a global weather expert, Jim Dale, how weather impacts the gambling markets and the outcome in sports. The focus is pretty much predominantly on the NFL, but it kind of applies, the lessons in there apply to most sports. And as Gary just said there's actually some very valuable lessons, especially in high wind and high rain scenarios. Player prop markets, over, unders, all sorts of bets. So worth checking out.
oh my God, Daniel James, like Wales went on the attack there, and they had 3-on-2 for a brief period, and he had a chance to play in. I don't know who it was running down the left wing, and he just held onto the ball and ended up shooting himself. But like, if he played it out to the left wing, it was not a certain goal, but like 70-30 chance of the attacker scoring. He just went from took a shot from himself for 25 yards that went a mile wide. Not great for the people who are on at 4-1.
Oh,
Croatia have scored, so that's 3 of our 4 second half goals in. We're just waiting on a goal in the Russia-Slovakia game, which is still, I mean, there's been, what's that, 25, 33 shots in the game so far. There's only 10 minutes left now, but, you know, they've definitely been going at it, and Slovakia are still dominating and pushing for that equaliser. So, yeah, I think that's looking good enough still very much alive.
Yeah. And then even if they do get a bit desperate, you know, Russia could pick them off on the counter even as we get near the end. So optimistic. It's always nice when you only need one goal that can come from either side. It's very easy to enjoy the last few minutes.
Yeah, you're just like cheering on both teams, like, do you know that way?
Yeah.
It seems so fickle because you're like, you know, someone has an attack and they kind of mess it up and you're like giving out to them. And then next thing the other team are on the attack and you're like, just shoot, like, you know.
Yeah. Cheering everything on. Iceland are really, really going for it here now against Armenia, 5-1, 11-2. So no real difference in terms of how the bookies see it, but it's 1-3 for the draw. Not a huge amount of time left. Would be nice to get that one in. We're really one goal short. I suppose for the Aki, Tranmere aren't coming back, so that's that one.
Oh my God, it's another, like, I don't know what Wales are doing. They had a 5-on-4 there again, overlap, the left full down the left hand side, and your man went to shoot from like 25 yards on the left hand side of the box instead of playing in as left back. Like, there was no need to shoot there. Just play the left back in. They crossed it across the goal. They had 4 players running in against 3 defenders. I don't know what they were doing. It's ridiculous.
Panicking again. We've said it in so many of these streams, you know.
Yeah, but I don't even know whether it's panicking. I think that was like the last 2 instances have just been kind of glory hunting rather than, you know, play the percentages, play your mate in. He's in a better position. Like, it just doesn't make sense to be going for a worldie from 25 yards at the corner of the box, like, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Let's flick over now to the Turkey game. Seems to have gone very flat.
Let's have a look at Russia there. Russia in the 1-8 to win, so I don't think there's any much happening from Slovakia point of view. That's the odds. Like, see, Germany have just gone 2-1 up against Romania, so after late, we got the job done.
Felt inevitable, really, once they got that early second half goal.
Yeah. But Latvia are doing well against the Netherlands to hold them to 1-0, like, you know.
It's a shame they'll get nothing for it, really. But they've any chance in that group, so even goal difference won't matter for them.
Yeah, it's actually annoying now on the stats in the Tranmere Colchester game. I know I'm like absolutely clutching at straws with 7 minutes left and 2 goals down. But like, since they've gone 2 goals down, they've started to come back into it from a statistical point of view. Anyway, like, you know, they've had plenty more shots and more shots on target as well. They had only 1 shot on target and one total shot in the first kind of 65 minutes. And since then, they've had another shot on target and 3 shots off target. So obviously coming back into the game, a bit of desperation, but too late for the bet.
Yep. I mean, even though the bet's probably not going to win at this stage, you know, like we said earlier, there's a lot of good profitable wins on the show. So do keep an eye on us throughout the rest of the season, because, you know, when the pre-game ones don't win, we win on air, or we even win both of them. So, and like Gary said there, it was a good call, even though it hasn't gone quite right. I mean, that's the nature of gambling. Even when you make the right call, you don't always win the bet. So,
yeah, listen, if you're following tonight, sure, you've had, like, even the singles with the goals in the Wales games, there's been 2 of those. Joe, we've called out other ones. You lads have had the trebles up. 1 goal in Russia lands another treble for you. So there's definitely good angles being pointed out. Anyway, it's not all about the main bet, but as we said, every week we're going to have that competition where we'll put on the bet, whatever odds it is. So I think the lowest odds we've had is 7-1. We've had up to 20-1 1 week. So we'll put it on, put a tenner on it, and the more interaction we get, is the better. And I said we'll give the pod away to the best comment on the night. So keep tuning in every Friday. I said have a few beers and a bit of a laugh, having a bet.
Yeah, that's it. Enjoy the process. I was going to say something there. You reminded me. Oh yeah, we've talked a bit on the sides and in the stream about the new exploding gambling industry in the US. And something I see is that maybe the odds are really poor. I don't know. The Yanks are so against what they call live betting. Like they just really, every serious person in the industry you see online, they're all trying to talk people out of it. And I see it. I'm like, it just makes no sense to me. It's such a
in play is like, to me, in play is the place to be. Like, especially if you can get, like, the worst sport to bet on in play is like horse racing and things like that, where, especially if you're on like Betfair Exchange, where you're behind. You can be 15, 20 seconds behind the race. And that 15, 20 seconds is like a massive, a massive amount can change in that period. But in a football match, if you're watching it and you're a football person, you know what it is. Even an NFL person, ebbs and flow of the game. There's definitely angles that you can work out there.
Yeah, we've said it before. Like these odds, like unless it's a huge, a game that they're going to have a lot of live traders watching it at the same time, generally they just price them on kind of flat lines between, what the odds are at the start of the half and what they're going to be at the end of the half. And there's, they just kind of trickle along pretty uniformly between those two. And you can sense that the game is changing. It's great. Like you said about Wales getting the next goal there, Gary, you can just see, a team are 2-1 up. In Wales' case, 2-1 down away from home. They're going to be very highly priced. And you can, if you're watching it, you can get a feel for it and get on. So, yeah, like I said, maybe in the US, the odds are really poor for those type of markets. I'm not really sure, but I think it's a great way to make a bit of profit, especially if you're not watching the game now. Could be not. It's not exactly the same, but if you are, watching
exactly. Like if I wasn't watching this Wales game, there's only 2 minutes left, so it mightn't come off. But if I wasn't watching the Wales game, I would have assumed that Wales were kind of backs to the wall. They went 1-0 up, they went back to the wall, they conceded. They went behind, they got an equaliser, and now they're back to the wall again. It's like they're trying to avoid relegation here. Like they've 6-on-5 again up front here in the 89th minute away from home. So watching the game definitely does give you that insight on betting in play. Like I'd still back them now. I don't know what, they probably were 20-1, but like they're throwing that many men forward. All they need is a break of a ball to be able to pull it off.
I'm looking at the table there. I mean, you say avoid relegation. So they're tied on points with the Czech Republic, but they've actually played a game less. So Wales have a game in hand over with Estonia, which you assume is a win. So, I mean, a win here for Wales, it doesn't guarantee them qualification, but it really, really puts them in the driving seat because they'll have the head-to-head over the Czech Republic. They'll have obviously more points in the Czech Republic, and they'll have the game in hand. So it would be very much advantage Wales if that happened. So maybe it's kind of a free swing for them here. If they lose, no big harm. They still have the game in hand, but if they win, that really, really huge benefit to them.
Yeah, it's just odd. You very rarely see that kind of gung-ho approach when it isn't, as you said, when there isn't something really on the line. Like, if this was the last game in the group or something like that, you'd be like, right, I can understand it. But fair play to them. That's what you want to see. Like, nobody wants to see a drab affair where one team has loads of possession, the other team is just defending for their lives. So fair play to them for having the confidence to go away, especially without their talisman and trying to play that way,
Yeah, they always kind of overperform Wales, don't they? Or so maybe it's just that they're the appropriate level, but they always do better than I expect them to do anyway. That's for sure. So yeah, they do perform well, and they're usually quite entertaining games.
Yeah, and I said I was advocating at the start of the match for Czech Republic win at 3-4, and I got that one like awfully wrong. Czech Republic have actually been fairly poor tonight. At home, crowd behind you, you'd expect to be doing better than they're doing here. And especially when you go 2-1 up with a lucky goal like that, you just go, right, come on, we'll kill this game. But since they scored that lucky goal, they've just been absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, those type of things, they're not as bad as red cards or disallowed goals, but those kind of fluky events can really mess up a game, completely kind of skew. I don't know does it get in players' heads or something? I don't know. And a last kind of a dangerous attack here very late on. Another miss. Oh, jeez. They've been quite poor this second half now, Turkey, I must say. And this draw has really done them no favours in terms of the group. Again, it's not that they're mathematically out, but they're as good as, especially with them. With the Netherlands picking up that win. So as it stands, the Netherlands would be 16, Norway 14, Turkey 12. So not out, but, good way to go as well. So I'm kind of getting to the end of the games here now. The bet anyway is as good as over. And
well, I ruined the bet this week with the Tranmere. I said, I still don't think it was a bad bet, but probably went for value more than anything else. Like, as we kind of pointed out at the start of the show, the bet in that game was under 2.5 goals. So, like, you should probably go with that. But we went for a bit of juice for a treble, and it just didn't pay off. But the other bets were like decent calls. I said the in-play bets have more than made up for that anyway.
It's finished 1-1 in the Iceland game, so that's over. One apiece. So Slats did mention the both teams to score. I wished I'd gone on that instead of over 2.5, but good close game there in the end. Iceland hanging on by a thread, and probably all they've achieved here is that they'll guarantee that neither themselves or Armenia qualify from this group. And it is about to go full time in the Turkey-Norway game. So that is it from a footballing point of view. We will move on briefly or very soon to a couple of other sports, college football, NFL, and horse racing. But just a quick reminder for anyone who's still with us to check out SportsRunDown.com. Gary has an EFL article up there previewing his best bets of the. Are all 3 games from League 2 this weekend, Gary, or is it 2 from League 2 and 1 from League 1?
No, all 3 from League 2. So there's a condensed schedule, and there's only 4 or 5 games in League 1. And obviously, the championship is off because of the international week. So went for the value in League 2.
Yeah, makes sense. And Dermot's just commented back in there to tell us that the US better seem to love 4 or 5 team Accas of 1 to 5 shots. We saw that last week. We had a lady, Joanna Gonzalez, commenting us, telling us that she had back Club Bruges double chance, and that must have been even inside 1 to 5. So you seem to be right there, Dermot. Wouldn't really appeal to me now. I must say it's not my type of odds profile, but to each their own, I suppose.
I think that's more just from like what you're used to perspective. Because I remember I was over there. Actually went to a Pittsburgh Penguins game in ice hockey. And I managed to get on to Betfair, and I was having a few bets. And I was kind of saying, I'm backing this at like 12 to 1. They were like, how can you get 12 to 1? Because they're just so used to having, 5 to 6 or 10 to 11, where it's just, over, under, yes, no, those type of bets. So I think it's just drilled into the mentality that you're not going to get these massive prices, and you don't even go looking for them. Whereas European bettors are looking for,
I think I told you this story. I was in Jackson. Oh, not Jackson. What's the capital of Memphis? Whatever that city's called. I was there one night, and there was some. No, and there was a guy.
Capital of Tennessee, no?
Oh, sorry, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi. That's what it was. I got confused. Jackson, Mississippi, and we were in Finian's Irish bar, and there was this fella saying that that was the time when I don't know what women's competition was on, but the US women's team were 1 to 40 in every game, and he was so happy because he was finding Thailand women at 35 to 1, and they were obviously Americans were winning every single game. He couldn't believe the odds though. I was like, man, surely of all the teams to not be backing against, it's the women's USA team. But they seem to be astounded.
Is this before or after you got kicked out of the casino for advertising SportsRunDown?
That's why I saw that guy. He encouraged me to do it. And then they went down to Louisiana, and I thought I was going to end up floating in the swamp the way I got asked to stop and then I would stuff into that place. Anyway, that's a conversation for another time. Oh God. I was actually getting red now, just thinking of the panic when these two monsters came over. I was like, oh my God, this is how people disappear, I suppose.
Yeah. We'll have to get one of those Twitch chat rooms where we'll float one of those stories and then we'll go into a private room for people to
The highest
juicy
bidder
details out.
Yeah, you have a vote which one of us gets to humiliate ourselves in the private room telling these stories. Well, look, we're going to wrap up the football there, guys. We're going to join. You obviously see that Slats has left us. We're going to have PK, who was with us last week for the NFL segment. He's going to join us in a couple of moments. But Gary, while we're making that change, you just have one horse racing bet that really stands out to you this weekend. If you want to run us through that.
Yeah. So now, really stands out is probably stretching it a small bit. So tomorrow, or like today and tomorrow. So obviously we had a few bets up on the site today. One winner at Newmarket. So there's quality racing at Newmarket. Tomorrow there's more quality racing, a lot of group races. I don't see any value. I kind of fancy a few of the favourites to win, and they're short priced. Anybody who follows the horse racing tips would have seen Caribus a couple of weeks ago. We tipped him up a 4-1 and reached 1-100 in running and got beaten. So he's out tomorrow, but he's 1-3. So I'll definitely be watching that race, but obviously won't be having a bet on it. So the big handicap tomorrow kind of brings down the curtain on the flat racing season in the UK. Is the Cesarewitch. So I've gone with Willie Mullins in this. So Willie Mullins is known as a national hunt trainer, but he loves to target these big flat handicaps. I think he has 6 runners in this race. He saddles the favourite, MC Muldoon, who's about 5-1. And obviously the fact he's the favourite, Ryan Moore aboard and 5-1, he obviously has a decent chance. But for me in a race like this, there's no chance I'll be backing something that short in the market. So Whiskey Sour has some decent form. Like a couple of years ago, he was rated higher, went off in the Ebor and went off favour for the Ebor, close to favour, around 6-1. And it's a similar type of race to this, staying handicap. I said he's on a decent mark. Has had a few injury concerns since, but had a good run at Punchestown towards the back end of last season. So you have to take his fitness on a little bit of kind of a trustworthy basis that he'd be fit enough for this. But Willie Mullins doesn't send them here just for a run if they're going to be primed for it. So I think he could possibly mug his stablemate at 28-1. That 28-1 is with William Hill, and William Hill are paying 7 places. So it's fifth of the odds. So you're getting 5 and a bit to 1 for him to finish in the top 7. I think he's definitely worth, or definitely that's a definite possibility that he could do it. But I also wouldn't discount him from the win market either. So as I said, tomorrow's racing is more for the connoisseurs. Watch it. There's going to be a lot of pointers for next year. There's a lot of 2-year-olds running, so it gives you the pointers for next year as 3-year-olds as we go into the classics and things like that. So definitely be watching every race tomorrow with interest. But that's the big kind of gambling interest is in the Cesarewitch. And I said 28-1, a decent price, and should give a good run for the money.
Yep, thanks for that, Gary. I will definitely be on that one, and despite always saying I'll be on these and then missing them, I'm actually going to get on that one today and not have any chance that I miss it.
I think it's a sneaky enough bet. I quietly fancy him, if you know what I mean. So I'm hoping for a big run.
Yeah, and before we move on to the NFL again, we were a little bit behind schedule here. Paul is going to join us pretty soon, and when he's there, we'll move on to the Circa picks. But just one other sport then, while we're waiting, is the college football. And anyone who follows the site will know that we tip up weekly bets in the college football, and we're doing quite well this season. But the article this week is a slightly different one. So there was none of the games this week were really worth betting from my point of view, even though they're all worth watching. There's 5 absolute humdingers of games that will pretty much decide a lot of the rest of the season. And that kind of got me thinking about how will the playoffs kind of pan out in college football. So I started looking into it, and I ended up stumbling into what I think is a really good 100-1 treble of teams to win their conferences. Now, they don't necessarily mean they'll get to the playoffs. It's quite a complex system they have in the college football. So anyone who's not familiar with it, it's worth reading the article and then probably just Googling it again to figure out how teams get to the playoffs. There's a lot of voting and stuff. But there's a few things, unwritten rules that you can kind of account for, and certain teams are already ruled out and other teams are very likely to be ruled out soon. But when I was looking at the conferences, there's one conference, so it's the Atlantic Coast Conference, or the ACC, and it would be kind of famous for having Clemson and North Carolina State, and the last few years they've done quite well. Obviously Clemson with Trevor Lawrence. But Clemson are having an awful season this year, and Wake Forest are having a really good one. Now, Wake Forest will be a very solid, kind of sturdy school. They never really get the public's attention, but they're 3-0 in their conference already. They're 5-0 for the season, and they're still 15-2 to win that conference. They've one tough game left in conference against Clemson. I think they'll probably beat them. Clemson have not looked good against any kind of serious program so far, and Wake Forest really do look good. Like they're not going to get to the playoffs because they're not a big enough name. They won't get the votes, but they could very easily win that conference. I don't know how they're 15-2. So I think that's a great price there. And then I've got another couple of ones in there as well. It's a treble at 100-1, so it's well worth reading. Or at least if you don't read it, it's probably worth backing at that kind of price. But if you're going to pick one, that Wake Forest one has to be the bet. It's like I said, they're 7-1 or outside 7-1, and there's only and they're 3-0 up, or 3 wins to the good already in the conference. So that's the best there.
I have it planned now for tomorrow, just to watch the Ireland match and then sit back and watch the college football afterwards. So looking forward to that.
There's one, if I could only watch one tomorrow, it would be the Penn State Iowa game. Other than Georgia, it's the two best defenses in college football, and probably whoever wins that game will be going to the playoffs. I mean, obviously a lot could happen between now and December, but it's very, very likely that, if Iowa win, they'll probably win that conference, and they will be going for sure. Penn State, similar story, but it could be it's one of those, could be very, very exciting, sort of 14-12 type of game. So definitely the one to watch, in my opinion. Give me 1 second now. We're going to get Paul into the screen here, and then we'll kick things off in terms of the NFL. We're not going to cut away like we did in previous weeks. It didn't go down well with the viewers, so we're just going to keep sticking around here, and then we will go straight into the NFL.
We're listening to your feedback.
Yeah, well, we always do. We like feedback. We appreciate it, and definitely something that we want to incorporate more of. So we'll jump now. We've got the Circa picks up on the screen. So welcome back to the show, Paul. How are you? I'm not sure why I call you Paul tonight, by the way, but that's how it is.
I haven't been called that in a while. No, doing good. Here to redeem myself after some what would we call them, atrocious picks last week, I'd say. It's fair to say. But doing all right. Yourselves?
Yeah, kind of in the same boat. A little bit ashamed of myself from last week's picks, but I was looking forward for a shot at redemption.
Same. I was listening to Gary there and his pick for the horse race, and he was on about Willie Mullins, and he nearly said a few flat ones or something, or fat ones, he nearly said, and I was thinking to myself, Willie Mullins is known to run a few fat ones and a few handicaps anyway, so he is.
No, I was saying flat.
Yeah, but I think he stumbled across and nearly said fat, so I was like,
Freudian slip. Yeah,
I was like, it still works.
Yeah, big time. Right, so anyone who's been around for the last couple of weeks will know what we do here. We're Sports Rundown. We're entered into the Circa Millions 3 competition this year. So the Vegas Pick 5 competition run by Circa Sportsbook. To submit our picks every week, we come on here, we have our own research done, and then we go through it as a pair or a trio every week and settle on the 5 here live on air, and then submit them. So probably maybe a good game last night that was missed. I know we've ruled out the Thursday nights for our own sake of our own mental health sake, really, I suppose. But these are the 15 games that are left. We're going to run through them in the order they're on the screen, and then anything that's an obvious inclusion where we all agree, we'll put it in, and then we'll have a little debate at the end for any additional picks. So we will start with the Jets at the Falcons. -3 here. It's a kind of a tricky number from my point of view. Personally, I want absolutely nothing to do with this game, but we'll go to PK first in the hot seat. What's your thoughts on this, the Jets at the Falcons?
I think you summed up my feelings there. This is the London game, right? Calvin Ridley hasn't gone with the Falcons. So, I mean, for the sake of my fantasy, Kyle Pitts has to have a breakout week, or he's droppable if he doesn't do it this week. But these are, two teams that are going to be in the bottom 5 of teams come the end of the year, I would have thought. Zach Wilson had a better week last week, but I'd probably go Jets if I had to make a pick, but this is a non-runner for me this game.
Gary, what do you think? Were you going to this game, Gary?
I'm going to this game, yeah. So I'm actually really looking forward to it. Even though, as you said, PK, it isn't the two greatest games in the world. It's just great to have football back in London, be able to go. So really looking forward to it. Kind of agree with you lads in terms of it's not something that we get involved in for this competition. I do think with the Ridley news and the way that the Jets defense played last week, that I'd probably side with the Jets if you put a gun to my head, but I think we leave it out of this. And in terms of a bet, you mentioned him, Kyle Pitts. I think 9-5. You might get 2-1 or a bit bigger with some firms for anytime touchdown scorer. I think this is the week he has a breakout week, and he'll definitely get one. He might get 2 touchdowns, I think.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's the London game alone, it's probably worth leaving out of the Circa. But yeah, I think we're all agreed probably the Jets, but it makes sense to skip this one. So the next game up then, a very different line, 10 points. The Dolphins travel to Tampa Bay, not that far of a journey. 3-game losing streak now for Miami, and despite a kind of a late rally, some garbage time touchdowns, they were losing 20-3 at the end of the game last week. Tampa Bay escaped from Foxborough with a nice win, and now they're 3-1 with 2 very, very close 2-point wins so far. Line is 10. We'll go to you, Gary, this time. What's your thoughts on that? Too many points or just about right?
I mean, I think the books will cover. Is it one of my top 5 this week? The answer is no. Dolphins are giving up 27 points a game. Like, if they're giving that up against teams they played so far, the Bucks will put up 40 points. Dolphins aren't going to be able to score 40 points against the Bucks. So I think the Bucks will cover, but I think there's better value, so I won't be putting them in, basically.
PK, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, same again. Dolphins have been ridiculously poor. Considering like what they've brought in were supposed to have brought in over the last couple of years. Yeah, and as Gary said, like if you're averaging losing or conceding 27 points against the teams they've played, the Bucks should run all over them, especially in Tampa. Like it's not one I'm going to put in my top ones either, because just that line is too big there. It gives incentive to just take foot off the gas, and it could be a garbage time score. But yeah, the only thing you could take here is the Bucks.
Yeah, that garbage time score, like we said, they were 17 points down in the fourth quarter last weekend, and then came back and made it look tight. So if you were sitting on 10 points there, you'd be very happy, and then all of a sudden you'd be getting 6. So I'm the same. Obviously, there's only going to be one winner. I think it's a very lopsided game, but I think there's better lines out there than 10 points. So I think agreed again on that, but not excited by the line. All right, we'll move on then. The next game, Philadelphia Eagles travel to Carolina. 3 points they're picking up, so Panthers 3-point favorites. Another team on a 3-game losing streak, and I mean they've coughed up 40. The Eagles now coughed up 40 points in 2 recent games. I mean they're actually racking up plenty of yards, but just can't seem to score. PK again, what are your thoughts here? 3-point favorites at home, the Panthers.
Yeah, I just want to have a pretty high level of confidence in the Panthers here, to be honest with you. I mean, I heard a lot of stuff during the week was saying, Jalen Hurts is good and his stats are good. And I mean, through his first 8 games or whatever, and even the first 4 games of the season. But like the Chiefs are making every offense in the league look good. I'm a Chiefs fan and Chiefs can't defend. So let's not rate Jalen Hurts in that game. I think Panthers lost last week, but lost a good team too. So I think there's been a slight overreaction in what happened last week. I think if this was before last week, I think you're looking at probably a 7-point spread there. So yeah, I'd have the Panthers as a very strong pick here for myself.
I thought the Panthers looked very good against Dallas, and I think come the end of the season there'll be no shame in that loss at all.
No.
And I think before that game their defense was looking very impressive. So I'm kind of with you on that one, PK. Gary, where do you stand on this? Eagles +3 at the Panthers.
Yeah, I think it's a full house on Panthers now. I just think that they probably ranked 3rd or 4th in total offense. The Panthers, total defense. The Panthers defense, rookie QB. I think they'll kind of limit their score and pick them off throughout the match. So yeah, -3. That'd be one of my firm picks for this.
Yeah, I ranked my picks this week just so that we don't have any confusion like we did last week and leave out kind of hot ones. And this was my fourth overall, between fourth and fifth. But I think it was definitely one that goes in.
I ranked mine as well, and this is my number one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just Carolina added a pretty decent cornerback during the week too. So I mean, I just don't see how the Eagles get close to them. I think, like I said,
just have winners and losers as my rank. I don't go 1 to 5.
Well, it was just for the sake of confusion. But I think, like I said, if you take out last week's results and performances, I think it would have been a 7.9 this week if you disregard them. So
yeah. Okay, so we're all agreed, and that's 100% go in. So next one up, the New Orleans Saints travel to Washington, 2.5-point road favorites. New Orleans 2-2, pretty inconsistent so far, and that overtime loss last week will have hurt considering they were 11 points up in the final quarter. Washington, they're scoring plenty, but they're just conceding even more and kind of just getting by. So what are your thoughts on this one? We'll go to you first this time, Gary. Washington, 2.5-point home underdogs. New Orleans Saints come to town.
Yeah, like, I mean, the Saints, I think, are one to put in here. Like Washington's defense, I thought they were going to be good this season. They haven't been that good. Offense, I actually like Heineke. I think he's doing a decent job at QB. But they lost, was it Logan Thomas out this week? He's on IR. They'll have to deal with Ricky Seals-Jones. It was actually a good passing option. But I think that I'd go with the Saints here.
PK.
It's not one I have huge opinions on. I think there's too many question marks over both teams. I think the Saints showed last week that they're a bit, flaky. As Gary said, Washington haven't really showed up. But I mean, if I had to take one, I'd go Washington myself. But home advantage there and whatnot. But not a game I have a really strong opinion in. I'm not gonna lie.
This is my number 2 overall. I think New Orleans cover, and they cover with ease. I think they will be inconsistent for the rest of the season. We sort of saw it last week. I think they'll swing from very good to, that mentally they're not really as strong as they were before. I mean, they've obviously lost a huge amount of experience over the summer with Drew Brees and all that. So I think that they will make mistakes, but I think my expectation is from here on through the rest of the season, they will compensate for those mistakes in the next game. I don't think that they have huge flaws. I think they just kind of switched off last week and they paid the price. They paid heavily for it. So I really like this one. Gary, you seem to be kind of on it as well, and then PK against. So we'll have to come back to this one. But for me, it was a very heavy fancy for New Orleans here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be very heavy, but I fancy them, so I'd be happy for it to go in. I wouldn't be able to argue for Washington, if you know what I mean. So
yeah. And just see, we have a comment in from Dermot. So it's going back a couple of games. He probably sent it on time. The Dolphins have no run, the Bucs have no secondary, and the Dolphins cover in garbage time. Yeah, I think that really is the fear with that game, that the old garbage time covering. So I think we're happy to definitely leave that one out, because a comfortable win could end up with not a huge scoreline at the end. So we'll leave that one go. The next game up is the Tennessee Titans travel down to Jacksonville, 4.5-point road favorites. Overtime loss to the Jets last week. I mean, I think they deserved that. They didn't get into the end zone until the fourth quarter. Trevor Lawrence just can't get things moving. 0-4. You could make a case to say that they're improving slightly, but still pretty poor. PK, what are your thoughts here? Titans minus 4.5.
Yeah, I think this line is just reflective more so of how bad the Titans have been, because the Jags haven't really done anything. I mean, they had a decent game against the Bengals, but you can't react to one game against a half-decent side like the Bengals. Where I really fancy the Titans. Like, the Titans still have ammo. They just need to click. I don't think there's anything going to come from the Jags this week, especially after looks like Urban Meyer's lost the locker room there, judging by reports. So after a little bit of lewd activity, for lack of,
he was only sitting there. What are you talking about?
Oh well, look.
He was just sitting there, and that girl was just dancing, and they just.
He didn't travel back with the team because he had to go to a bar and sit there looking at women apparently, and then whatever way you justify it, like, but apparently he's lost the dressing room too, and just I think the Titans do have enough ammo there to actually to beat them and cover this pretty well, I think, as well.
Gary?
Yeah, the Titans are the biggest banker of all time, I think. Like, it's just... Jags haven't been great. The Urban Meyer controversy, if he loses, he's probably sacked. Player, like, if you believe all the rumors on Twitter, he's lost the locker room. You've got the Titans coming off, an embarrassing defeat against the Jets. Derrick Henry's record against the Jags. They have Julio coming back, and Antonio Brown, Brown coming back as well. I think that they'll win this, no problem.
Yeah, I think you'll have the off-field drama for the Jags this week. Maybe doesn't have a huge part to play, but definitely wouldn't have helped them prepare for this. And then you look at, like you said, the Titans effectively embarrassed last week. They'll have a huge point to prove. I think the 4.5 is an overreaction to that loss, and I think they comfortably cover. This is my number one of the week. I think the Titans absolutely annihilate them here, so I'm very happy. I think this is a full house, as you said earlier, Gary. So we're all in on this one. Titans minus 4.
It's my number 2. So okay. I've already got number 1 and 2 off the board.
Lovely. Right, the next game up, Detroit Lions travel to Minnesota, 9.5 point road underdogs. The Lions 0-4, they're 1-3 against the spread. They're losing badly. The Vikings not doing that much better. They're only 1-3, but each loss has been by a single score. So could say they're a little bit unfortunate so far. Harry, would you lay 9.5 points here?
Probably not, because I think the Vikings are a far better team, but I don't think the Lions have been that bad, even though, defensively they've been bad. Offensively, I don't think they've been too bad. They give up nearly 30 points a game on average. So you'd expect Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Thielen, etc., to be able to rack up a score against that defense. I just have a sneaky feeling that the Lions will cause someone a problem one of these weeks. And it could be this week. So I said, if you put a gun to my head and said, who'd you pick? I'd go the Vikings all day long. Will I put it in my top 5 this week? Nah, I wouldn't.
Do you know what I don't like about this game is that the Vikings have lost, like I said, their losses have all been by a single score. And that starts to play in the mind. And I think that if they get ahead, they're just going to focus on running the clock down and killing the game. And they're not going to put their foot down and try and ride this in and get 15, 20 points out. And they're just going to do whatever they need to do to win. And it could end up being a kind of a cagey 5-6 point win that, comfortable enough from their point of view, but without ever putting up a huge score. So I think a team that have had a lot of close defeats, I don't want anything to do with it. PK, what do you think? 9.5?
Yeah, no, same as you. You can't do anything with any confidence in that line. Vikings are a better team, but from what I've seen from the Lions, they will shock a team one weekend. It's going to happen. They were well on top against the Packers in the first half and just never played the second half. So there's bits there. Minnesota are too flaky to take them at a minus 9.5 point spread. No way.
Yeah. Okay, we'll skip that one. Now we're on to the first PK pick'em of the season. The Broncos travel to Pittsburgh. No points, no favorite here, so it's just a spread of 0. Pick the winner. I said it last week. The Broncos looked they had a very easy schedule, and they were flattered by it. And I think it panned out that way. They finally played a proper team, and they really got stuffed. Steelers on a 3-game losing streak, but really 3 very tough fixtures. So if they were spread out over the season, you probably wouldn't think too much of those losses. Any lean here? We'll go back to you, PK.
No, there's a reason it just was the spread it is. Denver have lost Teddy this week more than likely. I don't think he's going to pass concussion protocol. And we've seen in yesteryears of the recent years, any of the Broncos, when they don't have confidence in their fullback or in their quarterback, their team tends to fall apart somewhat. They couldn't have shown any less confidence in Drew Lock by naming Teddy Bridgewater the starter this year after bringing him in, after being given him, I suppose, by the Panthers. I couldn't take the Broncos, even though I think they have a better team. But the way the Steelers have been offensively in the last few games, I couldn't take them either. So it's a no touch game for me.
Gary, any lean here?
Well, I don't think we should put it in, but my lean would be to the Steelers. I think that it's going to make or break for them this season. Like they're already 2 games behind every team in their division. They need to get a win here. If they don't and the other teams win, I don't think they can make up that ground really throughout the season. So, yeah, I think it's kind of make or break game for them. I was a semi-believer in the Broncos, but after last week's performance, I'm kind of doubting that again. So yeah, I'd go for the Steelers, but I think there's better out there for Circa contest.
Okay, so it's a skip all around, really. The next one up now, the Packers travel to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. They're 3-point road favourites. 3 back-to-back wins for Green Bay after that car crash in game 1. And the Bengals, 3 very close games. The last 3, an overtime win that lost to Chicago, and then a 3-point victory over the Jags. So what do you see here? We go to you, Gary, this time. 3-point road favourites, Green Bay.
Yeah, I think they're deserved favourites. Again, I think that the Bengals are just a dodgy team to play. I think no matter who plays them, I think they're a team that, like, you get some teams who kind of, I don't know whether they bring teams to their level or they raise their game against the good teams and then they're a bit below par against the poorer teams. So I can see the Bengals raising their great game here and it being a fairly tight game. I do think the Packers will cover the 3 points, but again, I wouldn't be putting it in this.
PK.
I'm going to try and shut off a bit of light off myself here. I have the Packers covering this. I mean, the Bengals only just beat the Jags last week. I mean, I think there was nothing great about it. They've lost to Chicago, who, haven't been a very good team this year. So, I mean, they've had a couple of decent wins in between too. But, I mean, the Packers have turned it on since week 1. They've shown that's a blip. I think 3 points is a nice line here, and I have it number 4 on mine. So, I'd be taking it.
This was my 7, so it didn't make my cut. I got my first 5, and then I had a substitute line in number 6, a backup line. This was the next one for me. I think the Packers cover it, but I just think that, like you both kind of said, it does have banana skin written all over it. I think that, I don't want it in there really, but I would agree with you. I same as Gary, I lean the Packers, but I'm not hot on it. We have another comment in that the Broncos without Teddy, so this is going back a game. Steelers are a nap. So that is a heavy one for Pittsburgh there, although we don't seem to be.
Is that from Dermot again? Or?
It is, from Dermot, yeah. He's big on the Steelers. So that's interesting, an interesting take. I don't see it, but I don't want that game either. I don't want anything to do with it, really. So, but interesting to see someone have a big opinion on it, because I thought it would have been a kind of a void from most people. Okay, so that's the Green Bay game. Next one up, we have New England Patriots. They travel to Houston. Patriots 8.5-point road favorites. I think they started at 9.5, but it settled on 8.5. Only 1 win so far, and that was against the Jets. And then a couple of very close losses. And something that stood out to me, despite the kind of whole narrative out there about the kind of slowly working the new QB, they're only rushing for about 60 yards a game, so very kind of pass heavy. The Texans, I mean, their defense is all over the place. They're coughing up about 30 points a game. Picking up 8.5 points here at home. What do you think? We'll go to you, Gary, first. Texans, 8.5 points.
I will be avoiding the game at all costs. I have no real strong opinion on it. I think that, the Patriots are probably starting to click a bit. They're getting a bit going on offense through the air. The run game is a concern, but the Texans are just the Texans. So I think that it's a good game for the Patriots to have after kind of a confidence boost last week against Tampa Bay and being able to kind of run the book so close last week. I think that will give them a bit of confidence, especially Mac Jones as a rookie QB. I'll give him a bit of confidence, but again, they should do it, but it's a bit of a banana skin, as you said earlier on. So I'd be leaving out of my top 5 for this. But again,
my number 2 overall.
Oh, is it?
I think they killed them. I think what you said, like they'll have a bit of belief in themselves now after the game plan working so well last week, and I think they need to put in a big performance. I just think the Houston are absolutely terrible. I don't see how they stay in the game. I think that 8.5 is lower than I would have thought. I think a lot of the other teams, like we've seen a lot of kind of 10 and 12 lines so far this season. I think this line should have been up around there. I think they stuffed them, is my take.
Yeah, the thing I noticed was, and again, I'm not too sure whether I have this right or not, so don't come at me if I get it wrong, but like Belichick has always been a tight end kind of fan. Like offensively, they've always gone to their tight ends. And I think last week Henry and Smith both got a touchdown.
Yep.
So like the fact that that's starting to click, I think is a positive sign for the Patriots offense. Like Henry with the Chargers was like unreal. Smith coming in as well. Like they're two decent tight ends, and if they can get them clicking, you could see a real uptick in the offense. So I can see where you're coming from. I wouldn't really have any qualms about it going in, but as I said, it wouldn't have been in my top 5.
PK, you're going to get the deciding vote on this one. So where do you see this game? Patriots laying 8.5 on the road.
It's not in my top 5 anyway. I don't know how that Pats team is 8.5 points better than any team in the league, to be honest with you. I know it's the Texans. They're on the road to Texans. If Tyrod Taylor was there, I'd say that this was. I definitely wouldn't touch it. With the new guy, young rookie Davis at quarterback, they haven't done well. The Bills are that much better though, and as Gary said, the conditions in Buffalo last week were pretty horrendous for any sort of attacking football. I couldn't take the Pats from what I've seen so far at any confidence at 8.5 points. I'm afraid to say.
Okay, so that's a no from PK. So our early agreement on these lines has started to waver a bit, but we'll plow ahead and see where we go. The next game up, the Bears. This was a strange line to me. The Bears plus 5.5 points on the road, Las Vegas this weekend. They take on the Raiders. 2 solid wins for the Bears, but then 2 humbling losses so far, averaging just 275 yards of offense per game. Las Vegas are putting up 430 yards per game. First loss of the week or of the season last week in LA, and they were very, very poor. I mean, they didn't score in 3 of the 4 quarters, so a real kind of kick in the teeth for them. 5.5 points. We'll go Gary this time. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think you have to go with the Raiders here. Like Dave Montgomery's going to be out for Chicago. It's going to be a lot of pressure on a rookie QB. The Raiders, bit scorned after losing last week. I think that they'll rack up quite a score against them. I can't see the Bears trying to keep up with them, or being able to keep up with them. They'll obviously try, but I think this would be one of my top 5 now.
PK, what do you think?
Yeah, I have this at number 5 as well. With Montgomery gone as well, there's a lot of pressure on Fields. He had a decent game last week, but it's it's Chicago at the end of the day on the road in Vegas. Vegas, as you said, have put up good numbers and looked offensively very, very good this year so far. Turnovers killed them a bit against the Chargers last week, but I'd fancy them to make a comeback here, and cover the 5.5.
Yeah, and the Raiders, I don't think the Raiders' pass defense has been that bad. I think they're kind of, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think they're low 200, so between 220 and 240 kind of yards per game through the air. They're poor against the rush, but they're not that bad against the pass. So, they're going to be forcing Fields into trying to beat him through the air, and I can just see him being picked off a couple of times. So,
yeah, that Las Vegas defense is really, it wasn't last week, but it has been very strong up until then. So, I know I could be a bit biased when I see the Bears, and I thought that line, it's like the Patriots line. I thought it would be higher. I thought it would be a good bit higher, in fact. So when I saw 5.5, Yeah, I was surprised it didn't make my 5, but I'd have no issue with it going in. And the more I look at it, I think even the way the Bears are, I'd be nearly inclined to back them for a small stake on a money line upset. And if they lose, they're just going to lose badly. I don't see them covering really without winning, because the way they play, they kind of like you said about the Lions earlier, the Bears will pick up a few wins this season that maybe we don't expect. But when they lose, I think they generally seem to come undone. And I think 5.5 is going to be covered here. So wasn't one of my picks, but I'd have no problem with it going in. So happy with that one. Next game up, Cleveland Browns travel to Los Angeles. They take on the Chargers, picking up 2 points on the road. The Browns 3-1, probably as good as anybody could hope for them after 4 games. But then, a bit like a few other teams we've discussed, I mean, their wins have come against the Bears, the Texans, and the Vikings. And those 3 just have 4 wins between them combined. So it's not really that impressive. The Chargers' only loss so far was against the Cowboys, and I think they look pretty impressive. 2-point home favorites. PK, what do you think?
Yeah, I just think this is a great game. It's not one I could go out with any confidence. Like, the Chargers have looked good. I did watch the game Monday night against against the Raiders, and they obviously beat the Chiefs as well. So, I mean, the Chargers are worthy favorites. I just think the Browns are good. They're solid. I mean, their one loss, I know they didn't beat much, but their one loss was a late loss to the Chiefs. Like, you couldn't really hold that against them. It's not one I could touch with any confidence. I'm not going to lie at that line. I think it's kind of a pick 'em. It's a coin toss there, and it's a game I'd rather watch than be sort of involved in.
Okay, Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm the same. I kind of have a soft spot for the Chargers because I really like Herbert, and I also really like Mike Williams. I have him in all my fantasy teams. I thought he's going to be an underrated wide receiver. But that said, they're coming up against a really good defense this week. So it'll be a big test. Probably one of the games of the weekend. I think it's just sit back and enjoy. Don't get involved in it. Again, if you put a gun to my head, it would probably be true rose into the glasses. I'd be saying Chargers, but it wouldn't be with any level of confidence to put them into our top 5.
I kind of disagree with you, but I don't have the game in there. I think the Chargers cover it well. I think the schedule has been kind to the Browns, and it's made them look better than maybe they are, and that's why that line is what it is. I think they'll cover pretty easily, but like you both said, it's more of a watch than bet game, and there's plenty more I had that I was more confident in. So I think if one of you had gone heavy with the Chargers, I would have been okay for it to go in, but I don't see the Browns covering there. But yeah, we'll happily watch and leave that one out. Okay, the next one, big line here. The Giants picking up 7 points as they travel to Arlington. Cowboys are 3-1, 4-0 against the spread after that 2-point loss to Tampa on the opening night. Overtime win last weekend has changed the mood big style in New York. 2 very tight losses and then a tight win. So pick up their first win of the season, 7 points. We'll go Gary this time. What do you think? Giants plus 7.
I would take the Giants plus 7. I think that they've obviously got a good few injuries, but I think they're kind of they've had to get the monkey off their back, and I think that win last week will help them. And yeah, I can see there's been a close game. I can see the Cowboys winning by 3 or 5, but I think it'll go all the way. I wouldn't actually be surprised if this went to overtime. So divisional game, they don't like each other. I'll probably leave it how it is, but I could see the Giants covering the 7 points. I think 7 is it. I have it like in the back of my head that I don't really rate this Cowboys team. I think they're a bit overrated. Especially a lot of that overratedness comes with Prescott, who I like, but around Prescott, especially defensively, I don't think they're that great, and I don't think they're good enough to give away 7 points, basically. So, yeah, I take the Giants, but not.
Yeah, I'm the opposite on this. I'm pretty confident on the Cowboys here, and I'm the opposite to Gary in that I think they've like I had my doubts about them. I think they're gone now. I think they've been that good. And even defensively, they're getting picks in every game, and they just look solid. And they're like, Dak is hitting every wide receiver. Zeke and Pollard are both running hard. I mean, there doesn't seem to be a flaw there at the moment for me. The Giants, on the other hand, I mean, I think both New York teams are being overinflated this week, but they're decent wins. But we've seen Danny Jones get a couple of decent wins before last season and then just blow up again. I like Danny Jones, but it's a flaky New York team at best. They have Saquon back; he looks to be coming back to close to his best. But I think, especially in Dallas, this Cowboys team has got just too much for New York. I think they covered the 7 pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, PK. It's not one of my picks because I've picked the Cowboys every week so far. They're 4-0 against the spread, and I just think, I don't know, is there kind of regression to the mean stuff goes on where that line just gets a little too high because people start to back them? I mean, I completely disagree with Gary. I think they're underrated. I think they've been underrated since the start. Maybe they'll start to get a bit overrated soon if they keep beating the spread so easily. I didn't put it in, but I'd agree with you, PK. I think they cover it. I would say that there's probably a huge amount of money goes on to New York teams, and I think that line is probably influenced by people expect them to go on there. But like I said, maybe it's just superstition, but I don't want to go for the same team 5 weeks in a row, especially if they've gone 4-0 against the spread. So I kind of agree with you there, PK. Didn't make my top 6, but I would have a very heavy lean for the Cowboys in this one. So we'll circle that one, but we'll have to come back to it if we don't make 5. Which we won't, by the way. Right, next one up, Gary, you're going to go first on this one. The 49ers travel to Arizona, 5.5-point road underdogs. 2 wins followed by 2 losses for San Francisco, 1-3 against the spread. Arizona 4-0. I think Kyler Murray's form is really what's doing it there. What do you think? 5.5 points.
Yeah, like this one, obviously a 49ers fan. I'm probably not the person to ask here. Like, just clouded judgment. As much as it pains me to say it, I think the Cardinals will probably cover. Garoppolo is going to be out. You're putting Trey Lance in. He looks decent, but is he going to be able to do it in a game of this magnitude? As you said, the Cardinals are unbeaten. Are the only unbeaten team in the league this season so far? So yeah. It's going to be tough for the Niners. It pains me to say it, but the Cardinals will probably cover. That said, I would like not to put this in because I don't want to cheer against the 49ers. And divisional games, I think, are the dodgy ones. So that's probably another reason why I wouldn't put it in. Even if it was full strength versus full strength, I'd probably be siding with the 49ers slightly, but I'd still have a concern about it being a divisional game. So, that's my 2 cents. Probably no help based on what I've said. But
to be honest, I've gone. I don't want it in based on what you've said. I have a slight lean for San Francisco here. I think they lose the match, but I think 5.5 is a little high, and I think it's the opposite of what happened with the Cowboys. I think 49ers have been overrated. The spread has been too much in their favor so far, and they're 1-3, so they're the joint worst, I think. And in terms of points, I think they're the worst against the spread so far this season. And I think that's probably a little overreaction to it here. So I think 5.5 is too much to pick up. Like you said, it's a divisional game. It could be very tight. And I wouldn't want it in there for that reason. I think I'm happy to avoid. PK, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think you can touch it for this. I mean, it's one of the games of the weekend. I think it's best watched. But the factor is, though, that the 49ers need to win this a lot more than the Cardinals. I know the Cardinals aren't going to want to lose their 100% record, but like, you've got the Rams going 4-1 last night. If San Fran lose this, then it's very hard. Like, you've got a 5-0 and a 4-1 team ahead of you in your division. It's looking rough. So with that basis, I think it's going to be a really close game, and I think 5.5, I couldn't touch it.
Yeah, and not to be a negative Nancy about it and to be totally crapping all over the 49ers, but another concern that I probably should have mentioned is the 49ers haven't been great against mobile QBs, particularly QBs like Kyler Murray. So that's another concern I'd have, is that even at their very best, fully functioning they haven't been great. They've always let those, especially Murray, there's memories in my mind of him escaping where, every other quarterback in the league would have been sacked and he escapes and throws, 3rd and 20 and gets the first down. So, I unfortunately think the Cardinals will win.
Another reason that I was leaning against the Cardinals is that win last week was big for them. Sometimes I feel it is not obviously not a literal hangover, but kind of a hangover from that game. They would have, that was a huge deal for them. And I think, like PK said, this game is the huge deal for San Francisco. So I think there's arguments both ways here. So I think this is a skip. Dermot back in the comments, the Dallas offense with the tight ends firing and the running back duo, very good. Yeah, I think Gary's the outsider on this one. I think he's the only person who's not hot on the Cowboys, but thinks they're
as I said, it's probably
time.
clouded judgment from the fact that I wrote my preseason preview that I didn't think the Cowboys are very good, and it's probably the stubbornness where I'm still thinking that. So happy to be proven wrong if we pick it.
I think I was at the same point last season. I think they started well as well, but then Dak got injured, and I was convinced at that stage they were still shit. But they could have been very good last season too if he didn't actually go down. But this season, I think they're probably the real deal.
Yeah, I'm with you there, PK. Right, we're getting near the end of the list here. So the next game up, we go from Gary's team to PK's team. So the Buffalo Bills travel to Kansas. The late game on Sunday. Chiefs 2.5-point home favorites. The Bills 2-0 already, and they're making light work of teams that they probably should be expected to make light work of. Kansas 2-2, both losses caused by kind of late fades in the games, coughing up a lot of fourth quarter points. I should check that they're 55 points so far in the fourth quarters. Kansas have given up. What do you think here, PK? Will they hang on this time and cover the 2.5, or what do you make?
No, couldn't have them with any faith. I'm not going to put them in. They're not in my 5 because this is one of them games where Sunday night football, you just grab a beer and you watch this. These two always just kind of tend to serve up an offensive treat. Bills are my number 2 team as well. So this one, it's
personal.
Yeah, my local team, like Bills have a heavy support here in Toronto too. So, I really like the Chiefs need it more than the Bills again, but I couldn't back the Chiefs with any confidence, but I'm sure as hell not going to back against them. I'm too personally involved in this game. It's no comment from me.
Gary, what do you make? Will they cover 2.5 at home?
I have no problem backing against them. I think Bills all day long. So,
do you know, I have a funny one here. I went with Kansas in the private super contest that the 3 of us are in, and I think I regret that now. The more I look at it, the 2.5 on the Bills, I think the Bills win this game straight up. It's hard for me to put that in because it goes against what I've put in the other competition, and I'm guaranteed to lose 1. So, yeah,
it comes down to the defensive matchup. Like, I know the Bills have had a few easy games. Blew out the likes of Miami, and then last week, the weather had a big impact in that game. So, like, they're ranked number 1 or number 2. I think number 1 total offense or total defense. And then, as you mentioned earlier on, PK, like the Chiefs haven't had a defense this season practically. Like they're ranked down the bottom of the league. I wouldn't be surprised if they're last or second last. I've got stats in front of me, so I think that it's going to come down to, are the Bills defense as good as they've been against bad teams now that they're facing a decent offense, and can the Chiefs up their game for a week to stop like Josh Allen and co. So I think they're like, it's going to be the best defense on the day will win, and I do think that the Bills are probably the best defense, so go with them.
Yeah, and I think just a thing to watch here is that the Kansas defense, like, obviously hasn't been there, but they've spent too much time on the pitch too. Mahomes wasn't Mahomes in September. He turned the ball over quite a bit, and the running game for a couple of games wasn't going. But they got the running game going last week. I can see him actually keeping the ball in hand quite a bit this week, Mahomes, and finding Kelsey when he can, and just playing safe and keeping the ball in possession. I think that's something they're going to have to work on. so that their defense isn't on the pitch as much. And I think that Mahomes has to take kind of a bit of responsibility for that too. I think this is just for me, honestly, Sunday night game was just a great watch. Love this game. So sit back.
Great watch. Have a beer. Back to Bills. Done.
No, there'll be no backing.
The better the game to watch, the less confident we are on the picks. But
oh, absolutely. I think that's a good thing, because they're the games you should just enjoy without having any sort of financial investment in them. It's football.
Yeah. Right. So a little kind of question mark there. Gary heavy on the Bills. I'm turning around to the Bills, and PK has recused himself from this one. So it could be the Bills here. We'll have to come back to it. We have a few question marks to circle back to. And then the last game of the week, Monday Night Football, Indianapolis Colts travel to Baltimore, picking up 7 points on the road. The Colts 1-3, and that win came against the poor Miami, but the losses came against the Rams, Seahawks, and Titans. So, pretty tough games as well. Ravens 3-1, and their only loss was in overtime. 7 point home favorites. It's a big line. We would go to PK first. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, I think the Ravens cover here. Not with any huge degree. I think they have them 6 on my list if they were anywhere. But like the Colts are just crap. I think that's what it's based on. I mean, the Ravens obviously put up a good showing against the Broncos last week as well, and we were like, okay, are the Broncos that good? And they were like, no, they proved the Broncos aren't that good. They're going up against a pretty bad Colts team here, and I think 7 is about right. I'd fancy them to cover it though.
Gary, you laughed when he said that. So do you agree with him, or do you disagree?
I kind of nearly get sick when I think about this game, because like the Colts are terrible and I don't really like the Ravens. So it's just a game that I just don't want anything to do with it whatsoever. I think the Ravens will win. Can they cover 7? Probably. Will they? I don't know. What I will say is that like Wentz started to... So, when Wentz was at Philadelphia, he obviously had a great rapport with Zach Ertz. I noticed last week he kind of struck that with Mo Ali Cox. So I think if he can have that kind of safety net there, safety blanket, that when he has, 3rd and 4 or whatever, he's able to just dump it off to his tight end. You could probably see a different Colts on offense, but am I going to put it in and bet on that? No, I'm not. So it's one to avoid. I said it kind of makes me nauseous.
It wasn't anywhere near the top of my list, but I do lean the Colts as well. I think we've talked about it a few times. There's, it's proven out that there's generally an overreaction to players being injured early in the season. I think that, Wentz and his ankles has probably kind of damaged him more than, or not as badly as the line would indicate now. And like you said, I think 7 is a bit too much. Do I want it in there? I absolutely don't, but I would lean the Colts there. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be a huge Monday night game for the neutrals either.
No,
but
who put this in Monday Night Football?
Yeah. Right, so to quickly wrap up then, and anyone in the comments who's still with us, by all means, drop us a comment what your thoughts on the games are. We've got, all of us agree, the Panthers are in, the Titans are in, and the Raiders are in. So there's 3 out of 5 straight in. We have a 2 out of 3 lean for the Saints. We have a 2 out of 3 kind of lean for the Patriots. 2 for the Cowboys, and Gary with his anti-Cowboy agenda is against the Cowboys. And then 2 for the Bills, but we're not really sold on that. So we got 3 question marks and 4 question marks and 3 nailed on. So Gary, other than the 3, so exclude the Panthers, the Titans, and the Raiders, what's your pick of the week?
Probably the Saints. Yeah, go with the Saints.
PK, pick of the week, excluding those 3 games.
I mean, 2 of you were very heavy on the Saints. I think it should go in. I have no problem with that. Outside that, it's the Cowboys for me.
Okay, well, that could bring us to 5 because I like the Cowboys and I like the Saints. So you've both come around there. But Gary, you had question marks around the Cowboys. So any alternatives?
No, listen, as I said,
it could be
my negativity towards the Cowboys is probably something in subconscious. It's probably not dealing with the facts of the season. It's more what I wrote in pre-season and hoping that was going to come off. So
it's a very honest appraisal of yourself there, Gary.
No, probably. So I'm not going to hold it. If you lads fancy it, I'm happy for you guys to go.
I do it
on the slaggy next week.
I do it all the time in sport, though. I'm just like, okay, I myself convinced these teams are shit, and like this is like they're just going to stay shit. And it takes me a while to come off the the bandwagon that I've put myself on. I'm like, yeah. But I mean, they could implode too. I mean, they're highly reliant on Dak. I mean, if he disappears again, they're dust.
Yeah, but is he going to disappear between now and Sunday? I don't think so. So yeah, he might miss the bus. But other than that, if they weren't 4-0 against the spread already, they would be my number one pick. But it's just superstition on my part made me hesitate a little bit because they're not going to go 16-0 against the spread. So at some point we've got to go against them. But I just don't think the Giants are as good as. I don't think they're within 7 of the Cowboys in Dallas or Arlington. I don't see it. So, okay, we're agreed then. The Panthers, the Titans, the Saints, the Raiders, and the Cowboys, in no particular order, are the 5. And Gary, which one are you going to gloat about next week that we've missed, just so we can get it on the record nice and early? Who do you feel aggrieved that you haven't had in there?
No, I think my bankers are in there this week, but the other ones are just I think the ones I'm fairly happy with the picks. I would have probably put Chargers in there and the Bills in there instead, but I can see the reasons against those. So yeah, there isn't going to be much complaining this week, although you did leave my banker out last week.
Yeah. And my one that I'm going to complain about next week potentially is the Patriots. That was my number 1 overall, but we will see come next week. Hopefully they don't cover now that it's not in there. Right. Well, look, thanks for watching us. Last check in the comments. No, we're all wrapped up there. Appreciate everyone watching us. And PK, thanks again for joining us. Appreciate having you on the show.
No problem. I just want to allude to the fact that remember last week you said 98% of the money in Vegas was taken on the books. Yeah, it just goes to show the bookies know a lot more than we do. That was my bet of the weekend.
We actually talked about this. It was a topic for conversation on the show earlier, but we never got around to it. And we can actually do it the next time you're on the air with us, PK. That's nearly Slats, who was on with us earlier. He actually nearly says it's a rule that if that much of the percentage is on one side, you go the other side. And obviously, maybe it's already cooked into the line. But yeah, 98, 97%. Come one way. I'll have a look and see. I didn't actually see the numbers this week.
Yeah,
but I'll check what if there's any huge heavy public leans this time around. But yeah, that was crazy. And obviously the bookies made out like bandits last week after that.
Yeah, just goes to show how much they know and why these lines are so tough to call.
Yeah. This week they're pretty tight, all right.
Yeah, this is a hard week, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, look, like we said, thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate you joining us. We'll be back at the same time next week. Football show early on, and then we'll come back around to the Circa Millions again. So have a nice weekend. Take care, and thanks for watching.
Cheers, lads. Thanks.